factors to get things going here on a Friday morning as we end off what was, the holiday interrupted, I guess, week. Right in the middle of it, we got New Year's, 0.4 right now from the NASDAQ, back to the upside here in the pre-market as we get back above 510 in the aftermarket, I guess it was yesterday, and held nicely. So maybe a little bit of support here after that massive down move yesterday. Late in the day, we basically go out on the lows. Lots of individual things moving around this morning. It's worth noting over on this side, calendar-wise, nothing until 10 a.m. this morning. That's notable. We'll get ISM manufacturing PMI for December. We'll also get natural gas, 10:30 because of the holiday. Again, midweek, we got oil yesterday, natural gas coming up at 10:30 this morning. Yeah, there's the NASDAQ, there's the S&P. Looking very, very similar so far this morning. Sharif and I were just sitting here talking about Tesla. And I mean, there's a whole bunch to talk about with Tesla, but what I started the conversation with was, where do we buy this?
Oh, good question.
I think that's going to be on the minds of a lot of people going into next week for sure, maybe the next couple of weeks even. I mean, 380 trying to hold right now after it did late in the day yesterday. We'll see if that actually does become the level when the market opens today. But I think at some point, you're going to get a lot of buyers stepping here.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're $100 off the high, a little bit more than that high that we put in on, I think, December 18th or so. So possibly a good area to start working in. We're below 400. We'll have to keep an eye out on this one, see if the bleeding stops. But they had a good catalyst today, Brendo. Tesla sales in China up 12.8% year over year in December, with a record 83,000 units sold there, despite the fact that global sales weakened as we got some of their delivery numbers yesterday. Lots to talk about CES coming up. Can't wait for that. Nvidia is going to be in focus there. Jensen with the keynote on that, so can't wait for that. And then there's another hit piece, the Hindenburg hit piece, this time against Carvana. So lots to move today.
Yeah, CVNA moving around. I wonder how I read something, I think it was on the weekend, about CES and the percentage of the show that will be robotics based this year. I feel like they're just going to have robots everywhere handing out pamphlets, and we'll see. Anyways, always an exciting time of year. A couple other things. I was just reading, there was a note from Goldman on Tesla as well, reiterating neutral on their stance for Tesla. They did talk about what happened yesterday with the overall delivery numbers, and then mentioned today, good to see for China specifically, completely bucking the trend of what we saw yesterday, coming in with higher than expected number. U.S. Steel deal is, looks like anyway, so officially dead. Biden going to squash this. So X downside this morning to the tune of about 8%. Apple, more question marks coming out of China. Downside again this morning so far here, about 0.5%. We're back to yesterday's low. That's an ugly day yesterday for Apple.
Oh, yeah. And to move the amount that Apple moved yesterday, that's an unusual movement for Apple, whether upside or downside. So that was a little eye-opening yesterday.
Yeah. I was watching it late in the afternoon, and there was just no bid. No one was even willing to lift an offer. So we'll see if there's a little more strength coming in for Apple today. A few other things. I mean, there's some Boeing news once again. There's Papa John's we'll get to, Paramount as well, all with individual news stories this morning. Sean is off for the day. Obi's in this morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, everybody. And, we don't care about Rivian's delivery numbers?
Rivian had delivery numbers?
I mean, they did.
I guess.
It's moving around a little bit. Obviously, it's not going to be the front of the mind for everybody, but hey, it's they're making a little bit of a run. It's up 4 points right now on their deliveries. Let me just double check here. They produced in Q4 Rivian 12,727 vehicles, delivered 14,183. Full year 49.5 and delivered 51,500. So those are, obviously not bad for Rivian. They're not going to be a Tesla, but bouncing off this nice 1275, which it's already done a couple of times here. So Rivian can be on watch. That's what happens when delivery numbers don't completely disappoint. I've seen a lot of people in the chat right now that have been speculating on where Tesla is a buy. And I saw 220 in the chat. That one's, when you start looking at obvious levels, that's an obvious one. I would also venture the triple top at 260 is 260, 270 is a big one. And then the one we're about to get to right now, the 50 period sits here at 360. Well, just underneath 360 at 350. With that triple top break was a 360 level. So I think that's the first buy zone. And if you think that's the first buy zone, I think continuations on Tesla is going to be one of the themes for today. Got to look for that short. And guess what's breaking out the high, Obi? One chip to rule them all.
Ooh. Nvidia?
Nvidia. Nvidia is already breaking out the high. The other thing that Nvidia is doing here today, whoops, yeah, when that's not split adjusted, it kind of kills it. The 50 period moving average on the daily, it is cleanly trying to break away from this. Please break 142. I think 142 is a good level for a break. 140 and a half is another big level as well. It's a lot to watch today, Obi. It was a pretty good trading opportunities day for the start of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And you had everything in there. You could trade the futures, you could trade the chip names, you could trade Tesla, and then all of the quantum names that were absolutely going nuts, and then the names that were just, even Faraday was moving around. So there's just a lot to watch. And this kind of market that we like, where there's opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Lots of good trading opportunities yesterday. Tesla day 1 deliveries today. Tesla day 2 delivery. So I'm definitely going to be watching that one today. I kind of, one of my best missed opportunities of yesterday was that Tesla day 1 continuation kind of move there. So yeah, we can talk about how clean that one was off of VWAP. You can see right here, this red line is anchored. But let's take that off right now. So anchored off of that. I'm going to be watching more of that today. We're consolidating underneath that anchored off of deliveries just now in the pre-market right here. You can see some of these highs that are being lower highs that are being made just underneath the anchored at 381.83. So, but throwing in on the VWAP and getting rid of some of these other indicators right now, you can see how cleanly VWAP held off of the open there. You can see that opening range high, rejects it, the dip happens, and then you can see that still sellers are still dominant at that VWAP. And once again, even better in and around going into the midday, you can see another retest of the VWAP area fails once again. So again, a little bit of a confluence there with that anchored now. That VWAP it's still holding underneath VWAP in the pre-market session right now. So deliveries day 2, definitely day 2 catalysts are something that I like to watch as well. So you can see that in the 4 a.m. action, with the 4 a.m. action, we pretty much rejected this midday consolidation high there, and we've trailed off of it a little bit. So Tesla's definitely going to be on watch today. And something I'm just reading in the news right here, that Micron has been chosen as the main mobile DRAM supplier for Samsung's S25 Galaxy series. So I'm probably going to be watching Micron as well with a strong Nvidia. Let's see if the chip leader can give this one some tailwind. We can see that Micron also closed pretty strong into the end of the day, 87.50s, and interestingly enough, we're consolidating above yesterday's range currently with all of the pre-market action. So I like that one there for a potential continuation look. We can take a look quickly at the NASDAQ as well to see what that's been up to. You can see that we've been bought up off of yesterday's strong sell-off. Oh boy, what a sell-off we had coming in and around 12 o'clock yesterday on both the NASDAQ and the ES, giving some strong selling off of some prior technicals as well. Maybe we can get into that later on today, but consolidating higher on top of VWAP coming into the open on the day today. So let's see, we'll definitely be watching that. I know that Neil looked at Nvidia already, but yeah, with a strong Nvidia, I think that Micron could potentially be one to watch as well. On Micron? Yeah, sure.
That's the 15-minute on Micron.
So
you have to remember,
15
it had a good gap.
Off.
So like there's
right here. Oh yeah. There's lots of room to go because off of earnings, or no, this was actually the 18th. So
yeah, Fed and then
the selling off of the Fed on December 18th, and then the earnings report comes out, and you get even more of an extension. And yeah, that was thank you, Neil, for pointing that one out. I totally forgot that part of that move was earnings, and that was an aggressive sell, like a cherry on top of the FOMC sell-off.
I don't know if you want to call it a cherry because it was a down day. Like what would be?
The cherries are red.
Okay, true, but like cherries are good. Is one more I was.
Yeah, but if you're short, that was also good.
Well, if you're short, it was fantastic.
Beautiful thing about the market, Neil.
You can go either direction.
You can you can like red apples or green apples. They both taste amazing.
Well, that said, I think everyone's more happy when it's to the upside. I always lean into that. But I think what that gives you is like two opportunities on Micron. You've got the first gap, like 88 to 92, which is the range from here to that prior high, and then you've got the massive gap above 92. Whatever, like just for some reason we're missing a little bit of data that day, but you've got the 88 to 92, and then you've got 92 to infinity on Micron. I think that's a great look, and it's got a catalyst as well. Let's get back onto this. Lots to cover here today. Oh, wait a minute, before we do. Kling Daddy in the chat. Did you buy Bitcoin at your 91 and 93 area? You said it was a good place to buy. Sometimes it'd be like that. I have a bid that I've been sitting underneath that in the 80s, thinking that I was going to get my bid on Bitcoin. I didn't. Is what it is. I'm not super aggressive like in Bitcoin. I'm a very much a buy and hold person. So, like I basically have I don't get too bent up about if I miss a dip buy. I know I'm only ever accumulating, so I know I'm just going to get it at some other point. But I was bidding in the actual 80s, kind of thinking that there was that point where we ran through. I'm like, oh, this is breaking through that level. I should get the 80s because it's a key support. But if it gets back down there, I'll probably slap a bid in there and see if we can't get it again. But I did miss that opportunity because I thought we'd get a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I thought we were going to break 90s as well. But, it is what it is. Maybe not yet. Maybe you will still get that filled. But we're still doing that consolidation around 100.
Exactly.
That's what it is, yeah. Back to the desk.
All right, a few other things to note here this morning. Here's Bitcoin. First off, a little bit red right now. 97.5 ends up being a little bit of resistance at the end of the day. Yesterday, we're pulling back in today. There's a pivot there for sure over this last few weeks in this consolidation. So we'll see if we can't get back above 97.5 at this point, but really not doing a heck of a lot. We were talking about Apple, 0.47 to the downside. November China iPhone shipments year over year downside unexpectedly, on top of the fact that we were talking yesterday about other Chinese concerns for Apple. There's been a lot of negative, not necessarily reviews, but comments, I guess, from people in high places about this 16 model. And then you put that on top of what happened with the headset getting completely squashed and already swept under a carpet like it never even happened. It seems like no one's even willing to talk about it. So I think Apple might be happy that it's a new calendar year and, want to start with a fresh slate and see what happens in 2025.
So the China lack of sales concerns me, but there is also a silver lining to that. So we know that, some of the other Honor, Huawei, a lot of these other local brands have really started picking up steam. I mean, because they had basically the chip embargo put in by Donald Trump a while ago, specifically the 5G chips. So that concerns me a little bit. What doesn't concern me is the potential a tailwind that they've got specifically with AI. So Apple's working directly with companies like Baidu and some other Chinese software developers to actually launch their Apple AI or the Apple Intelligence in Mandarin fully. And right now there's nothing. So if you're looking to buy the 16 as a Chinese customer, what incentive do you have? I mean, it's not like that's not a glowing endorsement for the Apple Intelligence available over here because it's not fully released either. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, I think that the best days for Apple still ahead of it, especially because we still haven't seen the full gauntlet of their products.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was definitely a rough year, I think, for Apple overall. If you look at the chart, however, I refer you back to Tesla's chart because this is starting to look very similar. Huge move up to all-time highs over the past couple of weeks. This pullback is getting to a point where you got to ask yourself,
where do you buy?
Where do we buy this? And I mean, the obvious answer to that is somewhere in this consolidation once we get back into that point, only 0.5% today into negative territory. But maybe Michael Noss will have some opinions on where to buy Apple at this point. I think Michael Noss was very consumed with Fartcoin over the weekend. He was telling me yesterday that Fartcoin got to all-time highs. And I actually pulled up
yeah.
a weekly chart of it,
saw
and
it.
it just goes straight up.
And I gave him the opportunity last week when we had the breakout in Nat Gas. I'm like, you're going to talk about seasonality when we had the opportunity to, pound the table about Nat Gas? He didn't take it. But we'll have to wait and see how that does.
All right. With that said, Mr. Noss is in, what is it, day 2 or day 3 of your fast here, Michael Noss?
Day 2.
Day 2. All right.
It's still standing.
All right,
if
still
I just
standing. Good.
Fall down randomly.
Good. This is a water-based fast, obviously, correct?
Yeah, water, and I'm giving myself some black coffee so I can stay mobile and keep my brain working.
And conscious, right? Good job. Well, I applaud you because that is incredibly challenging, and good job. I mean, I've read that if you make it beyond the 50% mark, it's no big deal to get the rest done.
Good. I hope you're right on that one. Because right now it's a little hard. So
okay.
Yeah, we got a couple hours to the 50%.
I won't tell you about the steak that we're having for lunch today or the. What do you want to talk about here today? I mean, I feel like there's a lot to cover. Going into, I mean, I'm kind of writing off yesterday and today as the start of the new year. I feel like next week will be more like the start of the new year and getting back into more normal volume.
Yeah, and I mentioned that a couple of times when I was on too, that I don't put much stock in this week or last week's action because you have the A team of the institutions are on vacation. You've got your B team. You've got a lot of retail speculation. It's why I think we've had these crazy moves in a lot of these low float names. But what I'm going to talk about today is I just want to visualize to everybody how much the mega cap guys have really led this market in the last year. So I have a bunch of charts going through the last year. I think this is the story of the year. So I spent a lot of time on New Year's Day when the market was closed going through charts. Of course, that doesn't surprise anyone. And just trying to say, okay, what do I think was the theme if I had to paint for a theme? Sometimes it's an industry, sometimes it's, a sector or something like this. And this time I just think it was these mega caps. And I'm going to show you guys that, and I'm going to talk about what I think needs to happen for this bull market to continue for another year. So the first chart I have is just MAGS, which is the Mag 7. So it has all of those in it. Sometimes releasing ETFs like this can actually be top and bottom signals. I remember when they delisted the coal ETF right at the bottom of the coal market. So sometimes when you see thematic ETFs getting like this narrow, you can see some problems here. But again, yeah, it's just the Mag 7. So it's all the big 7 guys. And I just wanted to show you the chart. This went live on May 2023. So we have over a year of data here. And pretty much straight and up and to the left. And the reason I use line charts for this is because we're zooming out quite a bit, and I think the theme takes place. So the next chart we have is the S&P 500. And I've drawn a purple line here at the high from before the bear market, right? So that 2021 high. So every time you see this purple line, again, that's a 2021 high. You can see the S&P 500 looks a lot like that Mag 7 line because that's what has been really driving the market. If you sum up those as the market cap weighted index, if you sum up those big 7 names, that's a lot of the index, right? That's a big percentage of the index. It's, I think, 30% or something at this point. So you can see when we broke out, we've had a great year in this. But let's start going to some other. Let's ignore those, I guess, is one way to look at it. So the next chart I have is the RSP. This is the same 500 names as the S&P 500, but it's not cap weighted, it's equal weighted. So those big names don't have as much of effect on this particular chart. And you can see not nearly as interesting when it broke out. Yes, it broke out, had new all-time highs. That was good, showing that the big cap names, even if you take the big guys out of there, are still doing okay. Not as well as those big names, but are still doing okay. Next, we start getting into some other, we're going to go down the cap scale now, right? So we're ignoring large cap now. We're using MDY, which is a mid cap ETF. So mid cap, I believe, is 2 to 10 billion. So these are your guys who I like to fish in this pond, just because these guys are eventually, if they're good companies and are going to grow, they're going to be those large caps and they're going to get adopted into the S&P 500 and all of that. But these are your your middle companies. You probably haven't heard of much of them, but they're solid businesses. They have good earnings. They do okay. And you can see a little bit worse than the RSP. So broke out a little bit choppier when it broke out of that purple line, which is again the end of the last bull market. And it's just been a little bit sloppier to be in the mid cap space. Next guy's down here. So the next chart is IWM, and this is small caps. So under $2 billion is generally speaking with small caps. And if you look at a candlestick chart on a weekly chart, we broke that high very briefly. On a line chart, we got right to that all-time high and then rejected from it, just showing the weakness. You can see pretty linearly as we go down to smaller and smaller and smaller companies, they're not doing as well. And the last chart to kind of really hammer this home, this is the microcaps, right? So the microcaps are your really little guys, right? They're, I think, under 500 million or something, just very, very tiny companies. Didn't even get close to those prior highs, right? We haven't even tested that at all. So this is saying it's not as bad as a lot of people on Twitter will say that's only 7 companies leading the market or something like that. But it is showing that if you weren't in these big mega cap names all year, you didn't really get much done. And most of the companies in the market didn't, right? So we have, the S&P 500 has 500 names in it. The mid cap has 400 names in it. The IWM has 2,000 names in it. And then I think the IWC has another 1,000 or so names in it. So just the bulk of companies out there didn't get to their new all-time highs and are struggling under that area. So what I think we need to see going forward, and what I'm really going to watch this year while we're waiting for the first 5 days and the January effect, which I talked about earlier, is do we get this rotation? Do we get people taking profits from the Mag 7, that first chart where everybody made money? And does that money get filtered down into these smaller and up-and-coming companies? If so, then I think that's our next leg higher going into next year. If we don't get that and people just either hoard these large companies or, take the money and go off exchange with it and put it into bonds or cash or something, that's where I'm going to start to get nervous. So I'm really going to watch some of these ratio charts between, large caps and small caps and micro caps, just to see if we're getting down this cap scale. Because again, that's what I need. I think I'm going to need to see in order to really think we're going to have another 20% plus year like we had this year.
It's an interesting point. If you zoom out even on a bigger scale, I was reading a story this morning that was essentially saying I believe it was the cumulative market cap of the top 800, I want to say, stocks is as big as it's been since the 1920s, I believe it was. I'll pull that story up again, but yeah. And that was going into the Great Depression. So it was basically highlighting the simple fact that the market's so heavily weighted to the top end of the market cap scale currently that we haven't seen that since, the Great Depression, which is not necessarily concerning, but it's, I would say, notable at least.
Well, and right, I don't want to be a doom and gloomer. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that these Mag 7 are leading, but I think it's important that we kind of figure out why they're leading. And it's AI, right? All the Mag 7 have something to do with AI. So it makes it the entire stock market hinge on a single story. And I think that's what's kind of unnerving to some people out there, where if AI just doesn't come through, if people aren't seeing profits from it, those big names sell off and then everything else sells off with it. So it's almost like you like to see a diversification of stories. It'd be nice, if home builders were doing as well as AI stocks and as healthcare stocks. So you're kind of diversifying your economy, because right now it seems like the entire market is just all in on AI. Either AI does fantastic and everyone does well, or AI fails and then everyone has a bad day.
Or quantum just squashes AI and no one cares about AI anymore by next week anyway.
Yeah, anyway. Or whatever else comes next, I guess.
Real quick, some housekeeping for everyone out there watching. Next Thursday, markets closed for the Jimmy Carter event in the U.S. We are going to be here. We are going to do a special live stream for everyone and talk about our top stock picks for 2025, top trade ideas for 2025, whatever you want to call it. We're going to have some fun, some guests come through. Michael Noss is going to be one of those. And join us on Thursday around 10 o'clock. I think we'll get Mr. Noss coming through. So we appreciate you doing that. And we'll talk to you next week anyways before then.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I've got some research to do, and that always makes me excited. So I'll talk to you guys then.
Have a great weekend.
You too now.
Yeah, Michael doing research? No, come on. He's not going to do any of that. Hopefully he's not still doing that fast. I can't do, nah. I got to do intermittent. Like, I'll do, like, intermittent fasting on a regular basis. Like, I find that's good because I eat less junk in the evenings. But, yeah, full fast for multiple days. I don't think that would make me very happy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him. Is that like no water as well, or like you got to be drinking some water? Come on, yeah.
You have to drink water.
Yeah, no, shout out to him. That's definitely difficult thing to do, and I guess it builds discipline as well. I guess.
Yeah, so well, that's 100%. I think when
exercise.
it's like working out or like any kind of plan, it gets you that internal discipline built. And there's lots of ways to do it. I think it's fantastic. You want to find other, like, if you want discipline in trading, you want to find other places in your life where you can sort of reinforce that. For some people, it's a workout schedule. Maybe, heck, man, it could be cleaning. I don't really know. But I just have to find your own. There was one note I wanted to make about on theme for Michael, something that I'm looking at right now. And this won't be on, when we talk about our ideas for next week, this isn't going to be mine. But the 200 period on the Russell here, all these crazy wicks. But like, the best idea you can find here is, since the 200 period has held, this is November 2023, or actually it was December of 2023, the 200 period on the daily for the Russell has been very much respected. So this is a major test coming in for the Russell at 215, and it looks, we're trending back down into it. I think you get any kind of a dip and bounce, like recovery like this, like see that dip, and then higher low recovery, dip, higher low recovery, dip, higher low recovery, that's going to be a long signal on the Russell. I don't know that we've already gotten it here. I think maybe another chance for it to leg down even a little bit more. Obviously, with what's going on with the Fed and the fact that it's a non-zero chance we get no cuts, and certainly less cuts than were expected before, it's probably weighing on it a little bit here, but that 200 period starting to get very, very close. Yeah, objects appear closer in the rear view for that 200 period moving average. What I also noticed today is it was a rough start for the market. We need 5 red days in a row for Michael Noss's indicator. Well, we had one, but Adair decided to wear green to make sure that we don't have another.
We're going to take a look here at upgrades and downgrades, starting with SQ. This is Block Inc. with a Raymond James upgrade. They did gap a little bit up on this. You can read more about this on our watch list, but they're pretty detailed here about what they like for SQ going forward. JP Morgan getting upgraded by Wolf Research. Chewy also getting upgraded by Wolf Research. This former Roaring Kitty name currently up about 2.5% pre-market. And then we have Sands Las Vegas. So we have Jefferies Financial upgrading this one up about 4% today. So great look for all of these names, mostly pushing to the upside pre-market. Then we have Wolf Research now here with some downgrades. All four of these downgrades from Wolf Research. Bumble down about 2%, BNY Mellon, Imperial, and Immunovant. So Wolf Research here coming heavy with the downgrades. But this upgrade side has a couple interesting opportunities, guys. Back to you.
Out to me on that list. Okay, I like Block, but the Block I've talked about before, and Block does look interesting on the higher time frame.
The Block is hot.
The Block is hot, baby. But Chewy is ready to maybe do some things. I don't think, I have this channel drawn because sometimes when it's this good off a support level, you only have it confirmed, this trend bottom. Like the trend top, you can see, boom, there's your trend top. You're looking for, okay, where's the trend bottom going to be? Stupid clean between the 50 and the 200. But I don't think you get another shot at that when it's this obvious. So instead it bounces the 50 period. You're now near the top end of the range here. What you have to be careful with when you have an upward trend like this is like breaks of the high, like a break of this high. It's a pretty clean double top. But look what happened when you had this trend line and then the break of the high here. Like it was probably okay that day and then you pull back. So I think looking at these tops on Chewy, it's like, it's good for a day trade, but then after that, it needs to clear the top and close above the trend line. Otherwise, I think retesting the 50 period is at least reasonably likely because it's done it every other time it's traded. So I think it's worth watching Chewy if it can break this 36, but I put it in the more of the day trade than anything else because this has been respected. You've got earnings, and then you've got a clear top and a clear bottom of this channel, and as long as it respects the channel, you've got to be very, very careful getting aggressive for swing trades off of that high.
Yeah, I like the block chart as well. Now, something I've been doing more often this year is giving tickers the anchored only to the first earnings of the year and seeing how the year carried out relative to that earnings anchored. And you can see here that Block is doing some interesting things. Kind of a consolidative base since 2022, where we got that strong pullback off of the COVID run, 2020, 2021, all the way up to 289s right there. You can see we've been consolidating sideways here, and finally the prior earnings got us above that initial earnings anchored here on Block, and we went for a bit of a run, bit of a breakout as well, if you want to call it that. They're coming kind of back into that range, but I'm curious to know going forward this year on Block where this price action may potentially take us here. Do we come back into the range here as this selling has been happening over the past few weeks? This is a daily chart here. Each candle represents 1 day, but yeah, pulling back into this 74, 75s as well. But yeah, with a bit of an upgrade today. Let's see what Block does. Yesterday didn't do too much, kind of a consolidation grind into the close, but interestingly enough, we're getting that gap up push in the morning today, and yeah, with a bit of an upgrade. So yeah, let's see if that gap up will give us some continuation into some prior highs on Square. Sorry, Block.
Either or.
Either.
16, guys, that's where we closed out yesterday on the ES March contract. The thing about this close is it brings us down below that 59.50 point level that we've been defending for the past few days. So we're going to actually use 59.50 now as resistance. Sadly, to the downside, we're going to use 5,900 as support.
All right, as always, if you haven't done so, jump down to the description of this video. Top link in the description will get you to the sign-up page. All you need is your email address, and you can get the watch list every day sent right to your inbox for free. We were just discussing this Nike position that Bill Ackman has. I had no idea, but apparently as of December 28th, he had, it was 16.28 million shares of Nike for Pershing Square, so that's not nothing.
That's not anything.
Let's talk Tesla. Yeah, I mean, we covered it already kind of briefly, but I think it's a question of where do you buy this, not if. But yeah, if you missed it, China sales were a record. Say what after yesterday?
I know, and especially after last year, we kept hearing that they had trouble in China, all these new Chinese EV makers really eating into their market share. Well, we have a different look today, 12.8% increase for December, hitting a record sales of 83,000 units. About 36.7% of all of Tesla's global deliveries were in China, making it's the second largest market. Sadly, yesterday we did know that global deliveries were down 1.1% year over year. And look, Breno, they're not just doing this, they're not just getting these sales haphazardly. They're continuing to give incentives to Chinese customers, a 10,000 yuan discount, zero interest financing for up to 5 years. So they're really trying to move the needle there and stay competitive with some of these new EVs.
You were making the point yesterday that BYD was still crushing it, specifically in China. I mean, they're in other markets, but specifically in China on their total sales, not only topping Tesla, but maybe a sign that the demand in China is still there.
It is. And Brendo, BYD, and we don't trade BYD because it's on the OTC market, shout out to Jeff Mendel, but overseas shipments, so cars that were shipped overseas other than China for BYD, up 72% year over year. They're really going hard, and they're focusing on Brazil and some of the Latin American countries to try to find their way into the West.
Let's see what happens today. We're back to green here right now, guys, for Tesla.
So look, Tesla yesterday, it's a tale of, I'd say, 3 stories. One, sometimes when the biggest and the best move is in the pre-market, which is more or less what happens on the delivery number. I mean, you can see it. You're not capturing, well, I mean, you're not necessarily capturing that because the algos will get it, but when you're getting that big of a move, you're very unlikely to see something that will extend further than the $30 drop that you already had in the pre-market. And then the initial bounce trade essentially giving you this push down into from 95. By the time you get to the open, it's already giving you $11, and then we open up and you're essentially at the low at 74. So you've gotten 2 massive moves in there, and that's where, hey, the gravy's in, you're up on the short in Tesla. But then comes, it's the open. If you had that whole, I use more shares in the open than I would in the pre-market, which is true in a general sense, Well, it was not clean coming back in through VWAP. And one of the things that I was going over is if anytime this parabolic moves off of the open, I feel like the execution strategy should be mean reversion shots instead of trying to play consolidations. Because it's super clean at VWAP in the middle of the day, but here there's just so much more shakeout. Like these wicks are 84 up to like 90. It's just a heck of a lot more chop. That said, you're going to be looking for continuations today on Tesla. There's no question about it. You got pre-market highs at 82. You've got a resistance up there at 85, 86, and you've got another one at 90 to 92. So those are 3 places I'll be looking at on pops for Tesla. As we were saying before, I mean, it feels like we're headed to the 50 period on the daily here. That's 350. You had a triple top at 360 before a breakout. But I think that's a reasonable target area if we get down there to look for some bids on Tesla. So yeah, just got to be a little cleaner with the execution strategy. That's why you want to have a reason. It's not just a price area or a direction. You also have to have this is what I need to see to get into the trade, so that you're not getting sort of run over by a freight train or having to hold something way too far against you in order to let it work. And that's the plan of action on Tesla, just to be a little bit tighter. And we'll get to, we're going to get to Rivian deliveries in a sec, so no need to mention now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there on the execution on any trade. This is what Wayne and I were talking about recently, actually a few times over the past couple of weeks there, that yeah, you can come up with great ideas and the ideas can be pretty strong as well, but execution structure kind of making the difference between actually making profitable trades, making good trades on the idea versus not, right? So if you have proper execution sets and structures in order to apply. What's going on, Randy? To apply to the chart, then the idea, a strong idea plus execution could definitely come in very well. And yeah, yesterday, Tesla deliveries day one, we talked about this a little bit earlier there. You can see how cleanly it rejected off of that VWAP. I'm going to be looking for a continuation on the day today. Bit of a double bottom there at 373s. Let's see where that'll take us there. But if it doesn't, got range highs or opening range highs in and around 392s to 391.5. So I'm going to be watching this kind of range here. It pretty much ranged in this area all day, with a significant bottom, I would say. Sure, you can call it a double bottom, but majority of the mid to end of day consolidation held up that 376 to 373 level on Tesla. So let's see where Tesla takes us today. It was doing some decent relative volume coming off of the open, 1.6, which is pretty decent for a large cap right there. In the pre-market, currently doing less than 1 RVol, but we'll see what the open has in store for us today. But deliveries, day 2 catalyst on Tesla today.
All right, let's go on to Apple. Apparently Siri spying on everyone. Probably shouldn't shock anyone, but they have recordings. It's downside again today. I mean, this chart, as we were saying, looking a little bit like Tesla in the sense that it's coming back into decent levels here. I'm just going through some of these analyst moves this morning. Bank of America kind of standing out here, maintaining a buy, but a little bit lower on the price target.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all pans out. It's never happened, Brendo, that we were talking and then a certain advertisement shows up on the phone. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea or anything like that. But no, seriously though. So with respect to shipments to China, we were talking about this to start the show. They tumbled. They tumbled aggressively, 47.4% in November 2024 compared to a year ago. So not a good look there. Separately, on the other side of the coin, Bank of America Securities maintaining the buy on Apple and the $256 price target. Bernstein, same look there, reiterating outperform and a $260 price target. But that's more long-term. I think we've got a bit of a headwind right now for Apple.
The narrative going into this 16 cycle was it's going to be a super cycle and everyone's going to do the upgrade. I don't think that's happening yet.
We need the full release of the Apple Intelligence. We don't. With this piecemeal basis ain't going to cut it.
And it hasn't been great on that point yet, or the reviews anyway. But I don't know. Thoughts here, guys, for Apple?
Well, I have some thoughts on Apple. But before we get to that, how about we kick off 2025 with massive savings from Trade Ideas. Right now, exclusive to Trader TV, viewers get 25% off any subscription with code TraderTV25. Or you can go big with 30% off premium annual using TTV PREM30. Both of these are valid through January 3rd. Don't miss out on these New Year's savings, and let's crush 2025 together. Check it, scan the QR code you see in front of you. Check the link in the description. Shout out to Trade Ideas. Well, I got one on Apple. I want to buy 238. So, I should say there's like two, but 246 I think is a fade zone on Apple. It was not super clean when it broke this flat bottom yesterday. So this is, I should just draw a line, because if I draw a line here at 246 and hit my save button, I can then go over to my 3-minute chart where I can show you yesterday a little bit better. So this is 246. When it broke at the open, that was not a clean break. I guess if you really just scalped it, great, but then the follow through was non-existent. But then look what happened after it retested. That same level was golden. So 246, I think that's the fade zone on Apple, and then 238 is simply right in here. 200 period on, 50 period on the daily, simple moving average on the daily, previous triple top. So that's the range I got for Apple. Want to buy that bottom at 38, want to look for shorts at the top at 46. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Apple's spying on us? You can't be serious. All right. So yesterday, I actually didn't even notice this. Apple, I was like, I did observe that Apple was selling off quite aggressively, and I was like, oh boy, this is an aggressive sell, distinctly different from some of the other Mag 7 tickers on the day, but doing almost 2 times relative volume on Apple, that's pretty significant. And yeah, a bit of a double bottom consolidation right there. It's kind of a similar story to that of Tesla, in the sense where it finds a bottom and consolidates there for the later half of the day. But yeah, 241s, 242s. So clearly, I think something that we can kind of assume on this ticker here is, over the past couple of weeks, you can see that sellers are definitely a little bit in charge, especially you see Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So coming into today, I want to see if more of that is going to be happening. If the ticker shows us that sellers are still in charge, I want to see that some of these prior levels where sellers did come in aggressively show up again. And you can see that's already happening in the pre-market right now off of this just underneath this 245 level. You can see that aggressive selling that happened in and around 12 o'clock. Came off of that 245 level in the pre-market. We got a sharp push with the 7 a.m. volume into that area, and then some selling coming right back into that range low from yesterday. So continuation on Apple. Let's see if those sellers still persist.
We're just talking about Rivian. Yeah, it's up 5%, but I mean, when we sat here 24 hours ago and talked about 400,000+ vehicles, that was disappointing for Tesla, and then these are the numbers that we have for Rivian. 12,727 they delivered, that was produced. They delivered 14,183, so a little bit of backlog there, some leftovers. In the year, 49,476, 51,579 produced and delivered. So better than expected on that end, but still, they got a long way to go here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were talking with Randy yesterday during the How to Trade show during the midday, and I put it to him. I'm like, does the R2 move the needle, right? And can they get the R2 out in time? The Georgia plant's under construction, so we can't even talk about that because the plant that's supposed to build them isn't done. So we'll have to continue to wait and see. Obviously, they have the R3 that's slated for 26. But yeah, I think it's okay, Brendo, because this is nothing. This is not a shock. This is a $100,000 car. You can't sell too many of these, right?
I mean, they got to maintain it too going forward. That's going to be the key. They did also say that their backlog in supply chain had seemed to loosen up a little bit, and they had more access to parts. So that's good.
Huge volume on Rivian right now. So, it's one of those where delivery numbers come in and all of a sudden, it's going to be on your radar just because of that. So a couple of things, good bounce here, 12 and 12.75. I don't think you see that, but it's an important base because resistance to support, and now you're trying to break a little bit of a downward trend on this daily. I almost always like these prior resistance for pullbacks. So you can see like 13.8, this isn't a nothing area here. Maybe call it 13.75. I think it's better to give it a range like 13.65 into 13.80 or so. But if you just call it the 13.7 zone, you can see buying to resistance, to breakout, to resistance, to resistance. That's the dip buy zone. So when you find that on the 15-minute, as long as it holds that off the open, I think you're looking long. The caution will be once it gets above 1430, you can't necessarily ignore what happened the last time we were up here with that ridiculous rejection up at like 1470. So once it's above 1430, it's like make sure you're banking profits and just be careful for any kind of reversion. Like if it fails up here, I don't know how excited I am to buy any dips. But first stop on Rivian. You can already see in the pre-market, like we draw you that line, there's your resistance. It's already bounced a couple of times. Well, not much of a dip there, but certainly already bounced once off this price area at 1375. So that's the target zone. As long as it holds this off the open, you look continuations, just be wary about that top it made a couple of days ago.
All right. So I got to see the super chat here by Jordan Ali. I'm a beginner here. Love the show. Thank you. We love you as well. What does it mean when you use the word fade? So when we're saying fade, I think we mean it's a bit of counter trend, right? So if you want to counter the move. So for example, if I were to fade this Rivian doing over five times relative volume in the pre-market, I'm looking for, so you can see that it's bid up. So if I'm trying to fade it, I might be looking for a reversion back down into VWAP. So, but if it's on the downside and you're looking to fade the down move, you might be looking to take a long. So by fading, it's like, like just shaving some off, kind of that kind of a fade. But yeah, fading the move just means kind of going counter trend. I think that's a good way to put it, right, Neil?
Yeah, that's the best way to talk about it.
Yeah, but going back to Rivian here, again,
I've never seen that description before.
What do you mean? Oh, right there refers to the over-the-counter trading.
I've never heard of that in OTC trading.
Interesting.
Taking someone else, but no.
Yeah, I guess that kind of
makes
tracks,
sense.
Yeah.
That said, when we use it, 80% of the time, usually we'll probably use it more often if you're looking to short a top or short a stock that's in an upward trend. A lot of times we'll call like buying support or buying the bottom, but it's the same principle. It's going one direction, you're looking to go in the other. That's all.
Yeah. So something significant about Rivian that I do want to point out is right here. Again, doing significant RVOL, holding up on its VWAP. Now this VWAP is the same thing as it's anchored. Here, I can throw on an anchor just to prove that right there. Pretty much holding that same kind of level here in the pre-market. But interestingly enough, Neil, this pullback, the strong pullback, goes on to yesterday's consolidation highs. You can see we double topped yesterday before taking a little bit of a pullback going into the close. But this pullback is holding prior day's consolidation highs. So that's interesting for me as well. I think I have an anchored here from earlier here. It's probably off of an earnings or some sort of event. I think, whatever event that we had on December 9th with some strong action, we're kind of holding that as a bit of resistance. We can see here on the 31st, the last day of the year, we had a strong reversion with Rivian selling off aggressively into the close. So we do have a little bit of overhead resistance at that 1472 level, currently trading at 1395, just shy of that 14 level. So let's see if these delivery numbers can give us some continuation and drive Rivian to the upside today.
All right, let's go on to Block here. SQ back to the upside this morning. Raymond James with an upgrade, kind of out of nowhere, to the tune of 4% here, back to $90 for formerly known as Square, Block. Just reading this too, Cathie Wood dumping a ton of both Tesla and Palantir over the past couple of days, both obviously with huge runs. So might explain some of the weakness in both of those over the past couple of days. Palantir selling 42,293 shares. Not nothing.
It's interesting. Yeah, well, she's always actively managing all her portfolios, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Raymond James upgrading Block from market perform to outperform and a new price target up from 86 3/4 up to that 115. The upgrade here is driven by confidence in what they call seller gross payment volume, GPV for short, and the growth potential. Some of the key growth factors they talk about are easier year-over-year comparisons, increased sales momentum and better distribution, ongoing international expansion, and product innovation. I've talked to you about this off camera a bunch of times. My brother-in-law absolutely swears up and down with Square for his point of sale for his business, and he's always able to manage all the metrics, remote or otherwise, and can't live without it kind of thing.
I mean, there's so many different parts to that business, but just that one is super convenient for small businesses. End of this list as well, I didn't even see that, but Block is in there as well. So Kathy Wood also selling SQ over the past couple of days.
Again, like sometimes you see that weakness and it gets explained away. Before we get to Block, just one note on Palantir. It got close yesterday to that 71 go zone. So if there's another flush off 76 like today, I'm looking for the 71 long again. Just it never got there yesterday. I think there's a decent chance on any kind of weakness you could see a revisit. So it's the same level we've been talking about for the last month on Palantir at that 71. As far as Block goes, this one looks, I mean, whatever. Kathy, buy, sell, do whatever you want to do. But when you look at Block, it doesn't have a ton of volume on this upgrade, but on the weekly chart, this is 87, 1, 2, 3, and then finally breaking it out. And then now you're getting a pullback, and I'll go to the daily chart here. Now you're getting a pullback, and that same level is now getting retaken after we bounce the 50-period moving average. So I just think it's a long back into the high in a general sense when I see a level like that. I don't know if you break this out. This is 91.60-ish that it needs to break that top out today, which is, it's about $1 and change away. It's gonna ask a lot. It's already up 4%. You've already got prior lows to work off of, 88.5 and then 89. So I think you've got a good buy zone in there on Block. Probably maybe go to Rivian first here just because Rivian's got so much more relative volume, but I do like that look on Block as well.
Yeah, I think interestingly enough, it's doing a significant amount of relative volume on this upgrade, and I guess when Kathy keeps selling, it seems like a lot of these tickers keep getting bought up. So people are probably like, all right, we're going to take the other side of that. I don't know. But interestingly enough, we are doing some relative volume on the break of this bit of a trend that we've had for the past few days. So you can see that we sold off on December 27th here. Again, going into the end of the year, bit of a resistance level here at 91.5. Over and over again, you can see that selling comes in every time the ticker kind of gets up here, tries to push, selling comes in, and this time over a multi-day period, and with a little bit of a trend kind of to the downside here, gapping up above that, doing some relative volume. So let's see if we can finally break this 91.5-ish area on Square or Block today, pushing up into some of these prior levels as well. So you can see that selling actually started here aggressively on December 18th. Again, with that FOMC, we got that continuation of a sell that was already going on in the day. 2 p.m., we get even more aggressive selling. So that reference high was of the day was about 95.74, and then 2 p.m. high is about 93.81. We're currently trading at 90.23. So let's see if Square can get back up to some of those levels there. But yeah, interesting that it's doing that much relative volume in the pre-market. Let's see if some of that volume or that relative volume stays persistent going out into the open.
All right, we'll wrap things up here with CVNA. This was yesterday. Hindenburg coming out with short or declaring a short position against Carvana as we come back through $200, which was about there. Yesterday afternoon, it did hold below that going into the end of the day and then just absolutely tanked down through 190. Remember, I forget who it was, but somebody put a $2 price target on this at one point.
Oh, boy.
What a wild ride it's been for CVNA, but possibly more downside here today.
Yeah, Hindenburg calling their turnaround a mirage, Brendo. So, yeah, that's the allegations include use of unstable loans and accounting manipulation to boost reported income. Also, $800 million in loans that they say were loaned out to suspected and undisclosed related parties. Insider stock sales they also talk about. And here's the deal. So, This is a father-son kind of run company. Ernie Garcia III, he's the CEO. Ernest Garcia II, he's Carvana's largest shareholder, and they're central to the allegations here. So Hindenburg is claiming that Garcia, which owns also another company called Drive Time, which is a loan company for people buying cars from Carvana, basically he's saying that they're hiding delinquencies in some of the loan payments so that they can appear better on the balance sheet. The report also accuses the Garcias of operating a pump and dump scheme to enrich themselves. One last thing here, Brendo, it should be noticed that Ernest Garcia II, he was involved in the Lincoln savings and loan scandal and pled guilty back in 1990 to fraud. So I'm not saying, he's guilty here, but there's a track record.
A little bit of shadiness.
Yeah.
190 as we speak just comes and goes. So now 5+% here downside, guys.
Wild. So for any I thought it was $1 the price target on that old price target on Carvana at one point, but it did get down. It was at $4.50 at one point. Like, you got to keep that in mind. On a weekly chart, like this went from $360 to $4 to back up to here. Now it's already been running because, let's be real, when was the last time you saw a short seller report that came out when the stock was literally at the high? No. It's after it's already pulled the mean reversion, lost to 50 period, did this breakdown, and starts heading down into toward theoretical support, and that's when you drop the report because they're in the business of making money like everybody else. It is what it is. Vana, as it's affectionately called by some, I think you look at yesterday's, the bottom is actually 187, but if you look at the afternoon lows at about 195, you can already see it curling off that level. I think as long as it's underneath the 195, whenever there's a short seller report, until it's made a firm bottom and held that bottom, I think you look for the continuation. So this 195 sets up, and then maybe even a flat bottom break on Carvana. Okay, this is our last one, so hey, we're going to have some time to maybe talk about the chips after as well.
Yeah, no, Carvana, definitely one of the top watches for me. Let's see how it opens up. Not really doing too much volume in the pre-market. I see here on my book, it's done about just over 250,000 shares in the pre-market. Sure, we have a little bit of a relative volume coming in off of the 4 a.m. open. There are 30 times relative volume, kind of dwindling down to about 20 times right now, and even lower. See, yeah. So after this volume comes in, after 9 o'clock, we're getting closer to like 7 to 8 times relative volume. So we are getting some selling coming in. Again, yesterday we had that Hindenburg report, so a little bit of a shake and bake off of that. Finds a bit of a top there at 212.89s and then sells off into the close. Now we're selling off a little bit more there. So maybe some continuation, but something I did observe is that when you pull up Carvana on the weekly, here, it's already been selling off. You can see, yeah, talk about a beautiful textbook rounded bottom here, round bottom example on Carvana. We had that run up, the breakout off of this $60 level here, and you can see I have a couple anchors that we've been reclaiming and holding as well. So finally kind of breaking a bit of structure there, breaking a bit of trend as well. So let's see if we get that reversion. We've already got a decent kind of reversion off of the highs there, 268.34 is currently trading at 199 halves on Carvana. Actually, in the pre-market, trading at 187 halves right now. So we closed at 199 halves yesterday. So let's see if we get that continuation off of the open today. Some prior levels I'm watching right here. You can see this consolidation highs in and around 166. I don't know if we're going to go down about 20 points on Carvana. I got to go back and check what the ATR on this name is. But with a little bit of RVol, why not do a few ATRs? But let's see what that open brings us. Definitely a name on watch with that report coming out. But something also to note is that JPM also came out with a bit of a rebuttal in the morning, kind of saying that, okay, you know what, we've taken a look at them as well. It would be nice if they were a little bit more open about some of their workings, and maybe let's see. I don't expect a similar kind of move as SMCI where their auditors actually jumped ship, but. Let's see how Carvana deals with this short report going into today. Let's see if they have a response. But looking for that continuation, you can see that it's already been in a bit of a trend to the downside. Let's see if we can get a continuation off of this report on the day today. So only about a minute and 10 seconds left. I wish you guys luck for the trading day. May you take the best of decisions, and may the odds be ever in your favor. So we got a couple top names on watch. I got so running down my list of potential in-play names. I don't have any. I don't have too many specific plans just yet, but I'm looking at CEG. I'm looking at Carvana. I'm looking at Tesla. I'm looking at X with Biden coming out in the morning.
Be careful on that.
We're going to block that. Yeah.
One thing to remember with X is that Cleveland Cliffs did have a bid for them as well, previous to this, and the last bid Cliffs had was actually higher than this price, which is a little bit interesting to see if that one will come back in. We did get a super chat, but very quickly here, thank you very much, Nick W, for the super chat. I like the look on Square. You're in Rivian long swing and looking to enter a long on DOCN 32 level. Not much time before the open to get to it, but please try to remind me if we forget to go over DOCN that we'll try to do that. Nvidia had a small buy imbalance. It's headed to the upside. Double top here, I think, is the first place to look for a dip. But Adara, let's ring it for the second day of the year. How about now-ish? All right, so look, Nvidia had a buy imbalance. It did pair off. It's up 1%. It was the strongest mover yesterday. 140.5 is already a big level. I don't know if we're going to get the 138 dip into that double top. So that's the first look. Was looking for a dip buy. AMD looking relatively weak, but Rivian is already starting to come back in here. So retesting that 1375 zone. Already made a bit of a wick and trying to hold. Let's see if it can hold this open underneath the 1375. Tesla as well, looking continuation play there. It doesn't even want to sniff the upside to retest afternoon resistance. Already headed back down through the 380 here on Tesla. Not a very good start for TSLA, but Nvidia still looking pretty good. I'd still love to be able to get a dip. I don't want to rush into those tops. The market is heading higher here, although it will be so. Trying not to chase, But,
I think today I want to be a little bit patient here. Again, you can see Alphabet's running to the upside. So is Amazon. So is the Spider, and Nvidia breaking that 140 level. So let's see. We were talking about that 142, right, in the pre-market. So let's see if we can get there. Only about a point and a half left. Okay, here we go. 141's currently coming in to test on Nvidia. So let's pull up that chart and kind of observe that. You can see the Nasdaq also reclaiming that 21.3 and pushing up a little bit higher. Let's see if the ES can give us that 6,000 test. Oh boy, that's some acceleration on Nvidia to the upside. 141.26 I'm going to pack my patience, as Sharif likes to say, and wait for this trade, for a potential trade to fall.
Remember 140
today, 142.
Remember 142 is a bit of a double top here on the 15 minutes. So break one has happened on Nvidia, but I'll give it a chance to pull back into this prior high, 140.5. I think longs in front of 140.5 on a dip, and the 142 break are going to be the way to go. Rivian has also blasted off. Let me just cancel that 13.8. It's already headed to that 14.30 level here on Rivian. This is a super high flyer at this point. Tesla is also heading up. So if you're trying to fade Tesla, and when I say fade, if you're trying to short Tesla, you want to put in some patience. Pack your patience with that bad boy. But it's got to be Nvidia approaching that 142 as we speak. If I can pick it up back underneath the 141, great. But that breakout is now only 50 cents away on Nvidia. If you're wondering, just look at it on a 15-minute chart, a little bit of a higher time frame, and you'll be able to see that 142. It's a double top. You go a little further back. So I think we're going to get it here on Nvidia, looking like an absolute rocket ship. AMD is also happening to go along with it. We didn't get to Rigetti, so very quickly, I do want to go over Rigetti in a second. Let me just make sure I have that order in the right spot before we go into RGTI. Okay, we're looking good. RGTI, another strong mover. It does not hold on to first support, but it just bounced off that 18 level. So it broke down. Let it try to fill in that gap. We've seen it do a dip and rip before. Rigetti right back above the 19 area. So this one looks like it's just withstood into that prior low at 18, reclaim the pre-market low, and let's break it out. So we can get back above VWAP. I'd look for the breakout through 20. Otherwise, wait for the 18 level. But NVIDIA definitely looking like that 142 break.
Yeah, Neil, this market is hella strong right now, pushing to the upside. 588 halves on the spider there. So watching a few names at the same time. We can take a look at them together as well. Again, like I said, just patiently waiting. You can see that, wow, U.S. Steel, oh boy, you were right on that one there. That thing is reverting the gap back to the upside.
Be careful with that.
And something else that I'm watching is Nike. We were talking about this in the pre-market, Neil and I. Nike, very aggressive selling all day yesterday. So all day sellers in charge on Nike, and not only all day, you can see this red line right here is anchored from their earnings from December. I guess day one was December 20th, but the report came out on December 19th. Right here, you can see, again, anchored to the highs. We didn't quite make it back up above those 78, 77 half levels there. And yesterday, look at that, beautiful action right off of the open there. You can see selling coming in on Friday, December 27th, off of that anchored, kind of showing us that it might be respecting. And then yesterday, a bit of confirmation there with a sharp pull up into that earnings anchored VWAP, and then a strong sell off there. So let's see if we can get that continuation below the 73.25. So I'll be patient for that one there as well. What else did I have on watch? So we can go through my watch list here. We were talking about CEG, Constellation Energy. We saw they had a strong move yesterday with a little bit of relative volume here, gapping up a little above yesterday's range and giving us a little bit of a shake and bake right off of the open. So I'm looking for a bid to catch. If the bid is real and we do take a pullback, where will it potentially catch? That's the question that I'm asking as of right now. So wow, Carvana 186. So Carvana is actually looking to sell off a little bit there. But what's the volume on that one right now, Neil? I don't think it's done too much just
less
yet,
than 1 million shares on Carvana.
Yeah, less than 1 million shares. There goes Apple. So this is what I'm looking for. Apple continuation to the downside. This is yesterday's low just now right here. So I missed that VWAP entry off of what was that 42.80s, 42 halves roughly. Let's see if Apple gives us that continuation to the downside. The market's also taking a little bit of a pullback here as well currently. So that's giving us some tailwind to the downside. And Apple, again, distinctly different from some of these other Mag 7 names.
Speaking of which, Nvidia just did its first pullback.
Okay, all right.
So Nvidia tagged, it hasn't broken 142 yet, but it just tagged 141.65. It bounced off the even dollar pretty cleanly here to get back into the half dollar. If we can come to my charts for a second. There we go. Thank you, Remy. Or actually, it's Fabian. Bounced off 141, was able to scalp some out because it rejected this double top. So when it did that, got a bulk out here and going to look to dip by a little closer to that 140 half that we're eyeballing. So we're into Nvidia, and let's go over to Adara as Carvana is really starting to bleed.
Couple runners to be aware of. NanoX Imaging, NNOX. This one actually breaking here. Looks like yesterday's high with a bit of volume, just over 1 million shares traded on the day. No catalyst on this one, but they've run in the past. They're a small cap, so about $500 million market cap and a 13.8% short float. Also on watch here is CHEK. That's check cap with about a $4.4 million share float. Yesterday, they announced they received this patent here for its bowel disease treatment. Last but not least, Rivian still on the move here, up 11%. This one popping up on my scanner here with their production and delivery numbers released. So keep an eye on RIVN, CHEK, and NNOX. Back to you.
Thank you, Adara.
And Knox. The other chip name that's flying here is AMD. Right through yesterday's highs, but I still feel, okay, I know we're long Nvidia, but I still feel bearish on AMD until it breaks out of this channel that it's in. So it's at the top of the channel at resistance. This is a short zone for me. It's weird, but see that 123.5? That's a fade zone. That's a short zone. I keep saying fade, and not everyone gets it when we say fade. So if we do a mean revert off of this high in front of 123.5, this is a stock that I'm looking for shorts on AMD. 142 is still a breakout for me on Nvidia. So even though we're long into 42, I plan to cover and then get out and get back in on a 142 breakout. Here comes Rigetti as the strength in this quantum name is unabated. It's now trying to hold a breakout of the 90, the $20 level, chilling out at about 19.90 for a second there. Close above 20, and then we're going to look for a continuation long here. A flat breakout is actually at 20.25. But I want to see it hold a bid above this breakout price. So far, so good on Nvidia. And wow, Carvana 7% down. Is Carvana going to get to 10% before we get a shot at it? That's the question I got to ask myself.
Yeah. So Carvana continuation seems to be working out pretty well there. Nike to the downside as well. So I'm getting a little short here on Apple as it holds underneath its VWAP area. But if it reclaims, that's perfectly fine. We can kind of reassess as well. Tesla to the upside, giving us a little bit of a bid. 386s and change trading currently on Tesla here. So I have VWAP on Apple here at what is this? 242.65. We're trading just at that level currently here. And what is that? Oh, my AVG alert is still going off. So I got to turn that one off there. Yeah, CEG also holding within its opening range. So we were looking at that one there as well for a little bit of continuation. So that one's potentially coming in right now if we can get a bit of a break of that range there. But we'll see how some of these tickers are doing. Once again, with the market so strong and Apple still holding, you got to see what's going on with the Dara.
It's worth noting here too, TSLA. Obi mentioned this one being strong. It is up about 2% at day's highs. We also got a note here from JP Morgan saying that they think roughly 40% of Tesla earnings going forward are at risk due to the regulatory backdrop. What they could be referring to is the fact that we do have, it's very likely here that the Trump administration will curb some of these EV tax credits, so that could hurt TSLA due to the price of their vehicles. So TSLA here, apparently some regulatory risks for its earnings, according to JP Morgan. Make sure to like and subscribe. And at 10 a.m., we're going to be getting a little bit of ISM data, so be aware of that. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Adara. Yeah, 10 o'clock we'll have ISM. Nvidia, 41 into 42, 42 so far into the 30s. As the breakout of 42 has happened. I've scalped some out, but not the bulk of it. If you break this trend line, I still feel like our 141 and our 140.5 are going to be good buy zones, as this is an absolute rocket. The Nasdaq's now up 1 and change. So we're getting the, I mean, Adara wore green. You know, she told everybody it was going to be a long day today with that choice, and it's looking awfully strong. Obviously, I said be patient with Tesla for fades. Well, I'm not necessarily seeing anything. You blew through this level, and now you're retesting, I think, this 390 area. So if we're going to play mean reversion on Tesla, it's going to require a lot of patience, as this is looking super strong. AMD, however, is a different story. AMD is starting to top out here and try to break the trend. So this is different from Nvidia in that it's at a supply zone. Oh, I might have missed a chance there, but it's now trying to break this trend line. Come on, just pop up a little bit more. You're going to close underneath the trend here on AMD. And I'll see if I can get in just above the 123 level. NASDAQ super, super strong, like we mentioned. So be careful. Make sure you have a good, if you're trying to short something, make sure you have some good short entries, or maybe just let it be. I was about to say let it be Carvana, and Carvana just bounced like $5.
Yeah.
So maybe not even that.
Yeah, got to be careful with some of those shorts here. Again, market super strong off of the open there, so we kind of reclaimed that VWAP on Apple, but I'm giving it a little bit of room to kind of really get aggressive with this one there. But holding some of these prior days levels as well, right? So I'm watching the spider as well. The SPY is my compass, is what I like to remind myself a little bit every day, that I write down at the top of my note there. And the SPY is again, you can see the ES there, a bit of a test of some of those prior levels here on the spider as well. So yeah, SPY is pretty strong, but we're coming into some of the prior days levels, so I'm going to be continuing to watch some of that to see if sellers kind of step back in, and if they don't, maybe we do get a very strong day today with the market bidding up so aggressively. Again, we held that 21,300 on the NASDAQ, and then now we're kind of poised for a push or a test of that 6,000 on the ES as well. Spider coming into that 590 level, 589s trading on the SPY. Yesterday, interesting action underneath that 589 level there, but kind of giving that up, acting as resistance, a bit of a triple test on that relative to VWAP as well. And we're coming back into some of those areas on the spider. So I'm curious to know if that action, if that pressure still is persisting there on the day today. Again, end of the week here on again, holiday shortened week. This was
which we've had a lot of them.
Yeah, we've been back.
Feels like it's a record.
Bit of a back.
And then there's going to be another one next week. Like, that's part of the reason we're coming on for you guys on Thursday. Like, how many weeks in a row can you actually have shortened weeks before it gets a little bit unreasonable? So here comes Nvidia. It continues to power through. I'm going to hit a few baseball ones today on the off chance that maybe this market strength will get the Rogers We'll get Rodgers to throw money at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because I really want him to come back to the Blue Jays. Give me the 70s. I'm sitting right here. I was actually sitting at 77, which is weird. I want to sit like 72 or something on Nvidia. So we had the first dip at 141. Then we got the break at 142. Now the seller's literally at 70. Wow. It means cancel and then throw just underneath the 70 level. Just an extra couple of cents there. As we get to the upside, hit that like, hit that subscribe because the market is flying and we'll go to Adara in the green. Yes? No?
We're going to take a look here at LIDR. The company's name is AI, so a bit of a punny name here for LIDR, announcing here that they have entered the securities purchase agreement with an undisclosed institutional investor for financing worth $3.24 million. They do have a float of just over 10 million shares. About 3.2% of that is going to be sold short. So LIDR on watch, pulling back a little bit here, but still up about 30%, guys. And again, do like and subscribe.
Oh my, Rivian.
Oh my.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
This one's for you, Obi. Rivian's at $15. So yeah, about that. We never, obviously, I'm only in Nvidia because we missed out on the Rivian long here. It's like obviously you're going to be testing 15.15 if we can sustain above $15, but it blew out that prior high as well. So some delivery numbers are good, real good. And that's going to be Rivian, so shout out to anybody looking at them. Oh my goodness, what happened to Rigetti just there? Wow, okay, so Rigetti a second ago was underneath VWAP. I was like, okay, let's be patient with it. Let's see it hold, get back above. It blasted that 20 level again. Now this is looking a little bit more distinct up at this high. So we're still looking for Rigetti to take out this top. Now I get it. If you go really, really early back in the morning, you're probably going to find some levels at like 2070. But I'm just keying in on this double top here now with 20 and a quarter. So the stop is going in. We're going to take a breakout on Rigetti through the quarter mark. Get my order in and locked and loaded, ready to go. So yeah, we're locked and ready here on Rigetti. I did not mean for that to rhyme, but heck, it did anyways. Nvidia is now headed for 143, so regardless of which dollar you took, the 41, which is the initial dip, or the 42 breakout, all roads lead to the same place, and those roads lead higher. I like it when the market is up, but I still have some short ideas that I wanted. One of them is AMD. I know it seems weird, but the AMD reverted the trend, and I kind of missed it here. So a bit of a missed opportunity when this reverted the trend. It's holding on to VWAP, but I didn't get that execution. And I don't necessarily want to chase it down at those lows. So I have to look for another opportunity to get into this short on advanced micro devices. Now 143 change on Nvidia, so that continues to churn and looking just fine. Tesla, oh yeah, Tesla's still going up. So I've been waiting for this 390 to get tested up in here for the reversion on Tesla. It's got to be a trend reversion at this point. We'll let it fly and just practice a little bit of patience before running into this freight train.
Yeah, this is an aggressive bid, but there is a name that is continuing to the downside, Neil, and that is Nike. Nike selling off quite aggressively currently on that continuation. So let me pull that in right here. So Nike with a bit of continuation to the downside here. 73.25s. That was the level from yesterday. Oh boy, let me pull that up here on the tape at the same time so we can take a look at that as well. Nike trades on the NYSE. So let's take a quick look at Nike here as it pushes a little bit to the downside. So we did break just now of that prior day low right here. Let me pull it up on the tape on this screen as well so you guys can see. Wow, oh boy, look at that. So it cracks through some of those lows there and pushing aggressively to the downside on Nike. So a bit of a missed trade on my part. 74 hold, wasn't really doing too much volume coming in off of the pre-market there, but we do get that continuation currently. So I'll stay watching that one there. Market with a little bit of a pullback back through 21.4s, and then yeah, there's that selling coming in aggressively again on the spider. You can see that bid not really sustaining and coming right back in. So the sellers again, They could show up here, they could show up there. I have no idea, but I'm looking for those sellers to potentially come in. And come in, they do, with that aggression and with that ferocity once again here. And Apple finally kind of coming back in. Let's see if Apple sustains. Again, it bounced off of yesterday's low, which is, again, a strong reason to get long. So my initial entry there, maybe not the best, but again, managing that with a little bit of, or significantly less size than I'm taking up here. So it's working out right now, coming back into VWAP. So we're getting that reversion back down into VWAP. VWAP again sitting at 242.90s. We're coming right into those levels, 242.80s now testing. Wow, there's that aggressive selling. Hello.
Now it's starting to
There
come.
it is. So all right. So
quick update for everybody. I'm down to 10%. When we ever have a mean reversion, if I'm not looking short, I'm certainly looking to cover longs, right? So there is the top wick on Nvidia through 143. There's your higher lows. This is the break of the trend line. I was able to get it. It actually popped to give me 75s on that fill. But if we do get a close underneath that trend line, I generally want to cover the whole thing. I just got into the AMD short as well. So if we close this bar underneath the trend line, I'm out at least until VWAP here on Nvidia, and then just move on to the next trade at that point. Shout out to Tisha Perkins. Thank you for the super chat there, Tisha. Appreciate you. And I know there's another name I have to go over when things settle down a little bit because we got a super chat from earlier. CRNC. I know this one's on the move. This was one that we probably, I think if we weren't looking at so many bigger cap tech names, probably would have been on this one. It's 64% to the upside. Just pop out the daily chart. It's already made the significant break through the $10 level, but a monster. I have looked at this chart this morning. The monster level at 14 is looming. So it's 1350 high. Look at the 14 level on a daily, and if you don't think there won't be some sellers in there, it doesn't mean it stops, but that's a level I'd be looking for some kind of a reversion on if it got up to it. So that 14 level on CRNC, worth watching with interest. So still, it's weird to be long Nvidia and short AMD, but I just see them as distinctly different types of chip names. One which has resistance that we're at, so it broke the trend. I'm gonna play it here to this prior bar high when it took out 122.5, like this consolidation broke, and I'm gonna give it to this prior, not really a prior high, it's this prior support that was at 122.86. It's a relatively tight stop on AMD, but I want to be the other direction. As Nvidia flies, this is pulling back into VWAP. It looked relatively weak. I want multiple swings at this one to said downside. Market's pulling back, like we said, and Rigetti is about to make the break of 20.25.
wow,
So
that thing keeps on going, man. That continuation.
the dip buyers on this are relentless on Rigetti. Absolutely relentless.
Can't forgetty.
Rigetti can't forgetty?
Yeah. That's what I've been saying. Can't forgetty about Rigetti.
Well,
and
no, you can't forgetty about Rigetti. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yes.
So a bit of a consolidation on top of VWAP right now on Apple there. So let's see how this one kind of works out there. So we're holding within this opening range as well. Again, selling off of the open, holds prior day's low, and then bids all the way up to 244s and some change before cracking that trend, and kind of the trade looking even better for the continuation back down to the downside. So the question now becomes is, can we've attempted to break opening range high. We failed to follow through on that break of opening range high. Now let's see if we can attempt to break opening range low as the market pulls back and reverts over 50% of its run off of the open there. Apple, oh boy, give me that continuation. I'm going to be looking for it. We were looking for sellers, and sellers do show up, so that's confirmation of that. I'm looking for a continuation to the downside here on the day as well. But that Nike is working out quite well. At the same time, let's see what some of the other names we had on watch are doing. Wow, IONQ is running to the upside currently.
I'm never going to get
that.
that.
And so is QBTS. So I have a whole basket here of the quantum names there, and IONQ is hella strong currently on the day. So let's see where that one kind of takes us there. Let's see what else we got. Wow, Nvidia as well. Nvidia obviously very strong. So Nvidia did break that 142. We got a high of 143.35 on the day currently. And yeah, ARM very strong as well. Intel with a bit of a sell. Okay, all right. So that's looking a little distinctly different there. Let's take a look at some of the other Mag 7 names here. Yeah, Spider reverting back down into it.
Rigetti lost. Rigetti can forgetty now because it just lost the 19.5.
Rigetti the bid?
So it does not hold on. Oh, wait a minute. It does hold on to the bid. We'll see if it holds on to the bid. It was, come to my chart for a second for me. There we go. So there's the break. It actually did not break the prior low. So that's a bad stop on my part. It did not break the prior low. So 19, it's more like 1930 than it is 1950. So I'm going to try to weasel back into this thing. I'm going to just steal a term from Sharif. Because like the breakout, if you look at it on the 15-minute, like the break and the hold to hit, like it's still actually a valid long. And when you're looking for this thing to go not 20 to 20 and a half, like for Rigetti, you're looking for dollars, not cents. So ultimately, it's actually still very much valid, and that's more like a 19.3. Sometimes you put a stop at a round number when that's not the technical trade. So I'm just kind of popping back into the long that we already had, and then we'll go from there. Nvidia is a runaway freight train at this point. So I did cover. I'm down to 10% on Nvidia. When it did that little bit of a mean revert, see that topping tail candle? That caused me to get out of all but 10%, and it continues higher. So we're still going to hold on to this last 10%. I think 145 isn't completely unreasonable on Nvidia as strong as it's looked today. We might not get a second chance at VWAP. I checked that. We might not get a first chance at VWAP the way this thing is going. But yeah, that 145 seems like an obvious target. So I am back into Rigetti. The stop is now going to go to 119.35, but probably shouldn't have been out of it in the first place. Bad stop placement. Just jump right back in, is what it is. Pay some fees when you're making extra trades, but did not violate that bottom, so we had to make sure we got back into that trade. Still nothing for me on Tesla. It does not get to 390. I'm trying to wait for it to get up to that resistance at 390 to take a trade. Not going to rush here at all on Tesla. We can wait for this to come to us.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, we're getting, again, a bit of a pullback here on the markets, just observing, looking for where the next trade is. Nike's still surprisingly holding that low, still trading at 73.20s right now on Nike. So going to keep that one on watch to see if it'll give us an opportunity to play for that continuation move. But yeah, I like the market with a little bit of a pullback, still looking for that Apple to see what Apple does. But right now we're just consolidating in and around this VWAP area as of right now. So again, I'll be patient. I'm watching this action here as well. Added a little bit more there on the VWAP consolidation hold. So let's see if we get that continuation to the downside. Bit of a strong base, it would seem, at prior day's lows. So again, I don't necessarily want to fight that too much. If the bid does show up, then I will be more than willing to say, all right, peace. Okay, what is a Silverado Blue in the chat saying Tesla triple top time for short? Oh boy, okay, well.
It's getting close.
Is it at a triple top there?
I mean, right now, it's a double top, it's a triple top if it goes there right now on a 3-minute chart. But I think if you go back to yesterday, when it blew through this level, it went another $3 higher, like twice. One into the open and then after the open. So like it's very bullish, and there is some relief going on here in terms of a relief rally. So I'm just not necessarily there yet. I'd like to see it run the high. Yesterday, at this time of day on Tesla, if you were looking short, you either had to let it run the stops up top or look for a very distinct mean reversion. And you don't get a mean reversion trade until it puts in a higher low. So for me, if I'm looking for the mean reversion trade, I needed to see it make this dip that it just did. So then suddenly I can do one of these. Like you can either go with the wick bottoms if you want. It's essentially a similar trend line. And now all of a sudden you've got some higher lows. There's a trend up to revert now or wait for 390. That's the mistake I made with the short yesterday, was not actually waiting for it to give me some kind of a trend revert, but just sort of trying to short it off of a level. So it's either going to get to the big one, which is 390, or revert the trend that just got put in. So we just retook the 20 level on Rigetti. Nvidia seems destined to... I think we can. I'm not even bidding VWAP, right? So like I can say that I want to get back in at VWAP or add at VWAP because we're still in it. But at this point, the 142, you just sort of had to have that breakout. And if you're wondering where it came from, why we added on the note this morning, there's one top on the 24th, Christmas Eve, and there's another top there. And this was before Fed. So it's a double top on that 15 with a close and then a breakout to fill in this gap. And I keep saying 145 because of this. Right, so the last time we were up here, there was a big sell zone at 145 on Nvidia. So let's go Nvidia, and that one is for not just Nvidia, but for the hopes that the Toronto Blue Jays will get Anthony Santander, who the average fan hasn't heard of, but that's our best hope, is getting dudes that are okay that the fans have not even heard of because the Jays are hopeless.
Yeah, so I kind of covered everything there as we consolidate underneath that VWAP. Sure,
Apple?
I could have been, I could have been about 10, 15 pennies a little bit better. I did size in pretty decently. I was talking to Neil about this yesterday. I'm getting more and more comfortable using more of that buying power here, and trying to push a little bit harder for that when I do see trades that I really like. Now again, you guys saw I did get started a little too early, but again, with that in mind, with the notion in mind that I know that I want a lot more, and if it kind of goes a little bit higher, I like it even more because I'm looking for those sellers to come in, and on the break of trend on that 30-second chart, I definitely more than doubled up there plus that VWAP there. So, but if it's going to consolidate underneath VWAP again with only about 2 minutes left for that economic number coming out, I want to be a little bit patient. A little slightly oversized, sitting at that VWAP. Again, I was sitting on the even dollar at that 243, and I'm like, all right, well, okay, fine. I'll take my 30 pennies and I'll walk away right now. Sure, it could have been much cleaner, but that's something I'm trying to get better at. But I think I did well in terms of kind of managing some of my mischief there. But with the number coming out in about a minute, maybe I'll get better prices if we tick above 243s, and we get some better places for where I can see sellers coming right back in.
That's
more than willing to get back in right there. So I do have to kind of this hard wick is blocking the chart here. So let's take that wick out of the way here. So with that, we'll go to Adara with numbers happening. Numbers happening.
And
now.
happening now.
We do have both numbers and happening right now. In about 10 seconds, we're going to get a slew of ISM data. Key amongst these numbers is going to be the ISM manufacturing PMI. We're expecting 48.2. Also, ISM employment index is going to be on watch here as well. ISM manufacturing data higher than expected for the PMI, so 49.3 ISM manufacturing PMI versus forecast of 48.2, and the previous print of 48.4. Also higher than expected is the ISM manufacturing prices paid data, 52.5 versus 51.8 expected. Then we have this ISM manufacturing employment index. This is going to be a little bit lower than expected, 45.3 versus 48 consensus and 48.3 forecast. Then we also have new orders, 52.5 versus 50.4 expected. And the Qs here, great push to the upside, up almost 1%. And this was quite the uptrend off the open, but now slumping a little bit here, hanging out around that 515 halves level and up about 1%. We're going to have to see if we do have another green day here for the markets after some basically a flat performance and pretty choppy performance yesterday. But one of the themes today is going to be vehicle-related stocks. We saw what Tesla did yesterday. TSLA is still on watch. And then we also have names like Rivian and Rivian at day's highs, just continuing to push to the upside on their vehicle delivery numbers for Q4 and 2024. Then on the flip side of things, CVNA trying to recover here. Great bounce off the lows, but down about 4% for Carvana. We had a Hindenburg short report. Then JP Morgan came out and basically provided their own research saying that they can't really back up what was said in the Hindenburg report. But either way, CVNA down about 4%. It's worth noting this report actually came out Thursday. We're seeing a little bit more of a reaction today. And make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Back to the guys.
Thank you very much, Adara. So the number comes out, just a couple of things to go over. Obviously, it's going to shock the markets or shock some price action when that happens. I know sometimes you're long one and short the other. I'm long Nvidia still, but remember in AMD, there's your higher low. There's another lower high level to work off of. So when it put in that lower high, we shorted off the lower high at 123. It's now broken VWAP as that heads to the downside. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, everybody, because this is the best community out there. I know there's a lot of names that you guys are watching. We got to stay locked and focused on out. So far, so good. I mean, Rigetti's trying to battle that 20. For now, it looks strong. Nvidia's looking fantastic. AMD might be up 1.5, but we've got the short here at the 122 in front of 123. And if you were a little faster on that number, you probably got the 390 short on Tesla.
Oh boy.
Yeah, as Obi says, oh boy, because it went right to 389.93, and then flash to the downside. You're going to hit the do something. The market's doing absolutely plenty, and it's not that hard to find out where. Nvidia's still chilling out. Even with that pullback, we're at 143.5. It just tagged 144. If we break trend, I will jump out of the trade. I said it before. When you're holding on to these ones as winners, once you make that mean revert, we close this bar underneath. If we fail that high, I'm going to jump out. We're close enough to the target. We started at 141. We added at 142. If we end up fading at 144, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. 45 was going to be the target anyways. So far, so good. Have no complaints whatsoever here. But Nvidia looking like it could be on the curl if we fail that 144.
Yeah, so Apple's bidding right back up 243.25. So again, I think that was I think I did well to kind of get out right before the number, knowing that the number can potentially bring in some volatility there, and VWAP held. And I was like, all right, well, if the buyers are going to show themselves, because currently, what's the data that we have on the chart? We've held yesterday's low after selling off aggressively. So let's take a look at Apple's chart here and kind of talk through that there, though. So. Right here, so let's go that. Wow, it is actually catching a nice little bit. So I'm looking for, again, my thesis might change depending on what we do. And again, a little bit of confluence. Adara is wearing green today, so I do have to kind of remember and consider. No, I'm joking. I have to consider that as well. But no, look at this beautiful kind of a hold. Yesterday's double bottom we were looking at this level. I was looking at it to break down, and I was like, all right, oh boy, if it's going to go down right away, I want to get in a little bit here, which I did. Right there, you can see I got in a little bit there initially, right there, but it doesn't work. It kind of pulls in, it holds as a bid, and I'm like, oh boy, all right, well, if it's not going to be clean, I definitely wanted to take a lot more if we cracked through right away, but we don't do that. We come back in and push through the opening range high. We crack on a shorter time frame there. I like to look at a 15-second to 30-second chart there. So we break that trend. So guess what? I take a reversion back down into VWAP for the reversion trade. So you can see this beautiful bid up off of prior day's low. That was a trade in itself, right? That's a great long to have because it's showing you a bit of a double bottom. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to manage this now a little bit better. So when that trend break does come in, I like it even better for a pullback into VWAP there for the reversion, and then we start consolidating, chop, making a higher low. So knowing that, plus the fact that the economic number is coming out at 10, I'm like, all right, I'm going to piece out here just above those 242 halves. I think I actually got a pretty bad price there. 242.70s I covered at, so 20 pennies on the table there on that consolidation. But the number comes in and the bid catches right back on, and we test. We're coming in for a retest of that 244 currently. So let's see. The market is running to the upside. Let's see if Apple can continue back up into some of these pre-market places. Again, that selling started off aggressively here, 245.26 is, and oh boy, I see that chart on your screen, Neil, if you want to do a little bit of talking on that one there. And Randy's
covering some of it,
shaking his hands, rubbing his hands.
Randy's rubbing his hands together because if you remember, he called this on Rivian was going to do some nice things, and he also said Tesla he was concerned about on the deliveries. If I'm not mistaken. Well, Tesla went down. I don't know what's up today, but it got smoked yesterday, and Rivian's now up 19%.
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
19%. I mean, if it gets to 18 again, I think like the last time I didn't ring the register on anything, but on the old PA, I think I'll be ringing the register this time, Randy, at the 18 level. So super strong breakout here on Rivian. I don't know how far it can go. Remember, it's got a half-decent short float on it. But just to get back to some other things,
wow.
Oh, things can go the other way because there goes Rigetti now is taking that support level. We're able to scalp some back into the 20s, but Rigetti is now looking like it's that consolidation from the afternoon that we were just playing. It's just broken down. So you got to be careful with this. It did make a dip off the open, but this has now failed to break out significantly above that high. This is a gap back to about $18. So if it cannot hold on here, the 19.5, you got to wait for that $18 level to come back in. AMD still looking okay. I said we trail out of Nvidia after it broke that trend. So there's my trail out. It's wicked 144. Now it's just patience. I mean, Nvidia's already done the move that I was looking for. We didn't ultimately get anything at 138, but the breakout above 140.5, the 141 take and the 142, we can wait for VWAP now and just try to be a bit patient with it. AMD is working to the south side, and there's this NITO. And Shad, I know we got some super chats in here, And apologies for not getting to the super chats early in the morning when you've got all those open trades. It can be hard to go over them. Tisha Perkins asking about Nito, and then also CRNC. There's Go Palantir from William Addison. Thank you for the super chat there. And then we already got to SQ and DOCN. For a swing trade, Nick Dubs, we can do that one a little bit later. Because it's not necessarily a big mover in the moment if you're talking swings. But NITO, NITO. Up moves are very neat in this market. And this is another one. I mean, again, this is a small cappers market lately. This one is so far gone that it becomes really tricky to chase. However, a lot of times I just look at it this way. This is a $1.70 top, and then it's got like a 16-cent bottom. So it's call it like a $1.55. So $1.55 from here works you to like $3.25. Like, okay, so from bottom to top, so 100% move is about 3.25. And lo and behold, it's kind of pressing into that 3.25. So I tend to never want to buy tops like that. It's just easy math for you. And then if it does pull back, maybe catch it back on trend. So that's kind of what I would look at for Nito, because there's no levels to work off for this one. 180%. There's been so many of these Obi lately. Just kind of pick.
Is it looking like it's a bit of a squeeze action? I just checked the short flow. It's less than 1%, I think.
Well, it could be the float in general, right? Like sometimes
the float
it's
is
not about
15 million there, but yeah, it seems like some desperate buyers.
What is this thing?
On Nito there?
3.9 million float only.
3.9?
And it's called N2 Off.
N2 Off, yeah.
And it's an Israeli company, so N2 Off. Yeah, I don't know what they do, but it's kind of, sometimes the name gives you a bit of a hint. Clean tech company engaged in sustainable solutions for energy and agritech. Okay.
Agritech.
Yeah, I don't know about it.
Interesting. But catching a bid, I don't know.
Well, it's definitely catching a bid, but for a lot of these, I kind of always hope that they're going to be in the quantum space, because at least that way I have something. No, I have something to look off of.
Yeah,
like I can look at what's happening with Rigetti, I can look at what's happening with IonQ or D-Wave, and then you've got something to trade off of. In this case, you're just kind of flying blind with NITO, but it's got some levels. That 3.25 that we just pointed out, theoretically, it's already starting to pull back off of that. So always be cautious. AMD's still within the same price range. Come back to my chart for a second. So AMD, there's the prior high. It failed to break at the prior high and putting in a lower high of 123. But if it breaks, I just reloaded it. If it breaks that out, I got to get away from Dodge, because it's still a bull flag, right? So if we break out that 123 again and hold above, I got to jump out of that trade and sort of get away from it. It looks like the market is pretty strong here today. You don't want to die on the sword of a short or give too much back when you've already had a decent move. Like, it got me underneath VWAP, and now it looks a little bit strong. So the second we break above that 10 level with Ernest, I will be out. I don't like even dollar stops. So if I say 123, the stop's usually at 5, 6, maybe 11 or 12. I don't put it at one. Not going to put it at 123.01. That's just too silly.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like it's more likely to get
SOP,
hunted.
Standard operating procedure.
Yeah. It's like you see that. Even dollars get washed a lot more. Technical kind of ideas get washed a lot more there. And observing that, what I've kind of done with my trading is like kind of anticipate levels and breaks to be unclean, and look for maybe some of those technical traders to get stopped out, and then look for that continuation of the move there. And I guess it's been working well. Sometimes the wash is a little wider than I'd like. Sometimes the wash is within my stop limit, and I get hit and I get clipped before the move continues, and that's perfectly fine as well. That's definitely part of it. But the important part is getting back in, and then and which is also another skill that I'm kind of working on right here. But Apple taking a little bit of a pullback, as Fabian reminds me to tell you guys, remember to like and subscribe. The market is full of so many opportunities, and we are trying to shed some light on the price action that's happening here on the day. And wow, look at that pullback off of 244s on Apple, 243s trading back in again right here. So reversion to VWAP once again, with some aggressive selling coming in here as we start to print the third 15-minute candle of the day, with about 2.5 minutes left for that candle to print. And oh boy, straight down to VWAP all the way from the 70s. So that was a quick scalp.
This is why you don't have even dollar stops, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Look, like, okay, so this is a perfect example.
Look at,
but Yeah, the highs are 244s on the 30-second chart. So like a clean test of the even dollar. So it doesn't even get to 01. So this is a case where maybe that 01 or 02 kind of stop would have worked. But then again, like you can't really anticipate that.
No.
Especially on a ticker like Apple, right? But again, if you're quick with it, it can definitely be, some of those tape scalps can definitely be there. I'm looking for the next trade, and guess what? Rivian is continuing to push up higher, sustained relative volume, but decreasing volume on the day here at 1580s. I like the reversion, both the anchor and the VWAP sitting down at a clean 15. So am I looking for 50 pennies here on Rivian as it starts to slow down on the bid? Maybe, potentially. But let's see. Let's take a look back at this chart and see if we're pushing up into some of these potential overhead resistance here on Rivian. So I'm going straight to the 3-hour chart. Oh boy, right there, Neil, standing out at, what is that specifically? 1555. That's where we're trading at currently. So let's see if we can hold 1555 or we break back down. But this was an area of prior resistance that we're hitting on deliveries day one. And that reminds me, let's see what Tesla is up to on deliveries day two. So we were looking at some of that prior day's range. Did we get up to some of those levels? Oh boy, we got into that opening session. Yeah, that's at 10 a.m. high right there. It's in and around 390. So the high we got to was 389.95, giving us that reversion back down into VWAP, sitting at 384.79. So I guess if you're taking that perspective, it's been working out nicely here. But surprisingly enough, Neil, Apple is holding VWAP. So you know what? I'm going to pack my patience a little bit longer here. Wow, look at that. That reversion gets bought up right away. This is a 3-minute chart. So VWAP. So not only have we made a bounce off of prior day's low after a very, very strong sell-off. So let's measure this sell-off right here off of the open into some of those day lows. We sold off just over 2.85% on the day. That's about just over 7 points on Apple, trading at 243s. And then we hold that bottom at 241.89s on the day today, make a higher low into the opening range, and now we're sustaining on top of VWAP. Oh boy, are we going to chop sideways? The market is taking a little bit of a pullback, 50% retracement of that bid. And the oh boy count is at 74 million so far for the year. No, it's not. I just made that. I have no idea what the oh boy. We did it once. Sounds about right. It's in ballpark area.
I call it like it's probably 13 or 12 or 13. I used to be really
at
good
least
at
5.
estimation.
Is it
it's over. No, it's over 5. No, it's close.
You know that meme where SpongeBob and Patrick walk into this like mattress warehouse or whatever, and they're just like, "Oh, how many do you think there are?" And it's just stacks and stacks of mattresses. And then I think one of them is like, "Oh, at least 5," and they're like, "Yeah, at least 5." With confidence, you can say that there are at least 5.
Yeah, that meme I actually know, so I can give a little bit of a smile. But the other reason we're talking about don't run even dollar stops, and again, everyone, it's to each your own. There's a couple of things with this AMD short, right? Like it's generally speaking off of prior levels, right? So this high is 123.14. This lower high is 123.75. So the initial breakdown short, I'm giving it to this area here. So you see like that entry and that tight stop. But when it retests, like this is where it stopped me out underneath 123. This high is 123.06. Like 123 even doesn't mean anything at that point. Like it's a price area in yesterday's high that I want to play the lower high off of. But ideally, I want to be short in here and giving it either to the high of the day, which I don't want to in a strong market, or giving it just above. So in that case, like you put it somewhere, 12, 13, 14, whatever you're comfortable with to give you a shot. And the other part of that is if it wicks the top, I'm getting back in. Like I don't mind getting stopped out and re-entering the trade. And if that stopped me out, I'm getting back in the trade as long as it's valid. So we did just get a push into 132, so we got that reverse. Well, I mean, we had a dollar cup long, but now we got one to the south side as AMD continues to be. Look, it's just relatively weak. And why short AMD? I'm just going to try and wax poetic about this. The trend is your friend. If a stock is doing this on the daily chart, well, when it gets to the top of the trend line and you've got confluence with a resistance level as well, okay, like look at this top on AMD. And then look at this trend line to the downside. I mean, if you're a day trader, then to me, it's not a long here. Like it's a short there. And if it breaks out this top, okay, if we break out above 123.70, then I want to look for longs. There is nothing wrong with buying high and selling higher. That's one thing that sometimes you got to get comfortable with. Like if there's sellers here, and call it they or call it whomever, somebody's selling this thing the last few days between 122.70 and 123.5. Somebody's doing it. I don't care who they is. I just rather join them than anything else. So when they get a bid down here, actually I should be in front of 121.5. So I'm going to get a bid in between 122 and 121.5 because I should be bidding into this zone as well. And if we break 121.5, hold into 121, which I will sit on the bid. Just make sure we have an order locked and we're ready to go. I hope that makes a heck of a lot of sense. I see Mark in the chat asking about Meta. I have not looked at Meta. Oh, no, that's not good for the market.
What?
Meta is about to go red.
Oh, boy.
I do know Meta was strong, and Meta's been really threatening to break this one out. This is another stock that, like AMD, like I'm not shorting it up here, but somebody is selling this thing above 600 into 610, and it just can't seem to sustain the move. So until it breaks about 612, it's still just a retest of this support at 585 every single time. So you kind of see this top heavy in here on Meta, and then you're just trying to hold a 50 period and 585. So if we see 585 today or anything under 590, I think that might be the buy zone for you on Meta. But so far, so good. I just want to double check in on Nvidia, see if it's literally nowhere near VWAP. So we got out of Nvidia when it failed to 144. We're looking for re-entry points somewhere around VWAP. This is the strong one of the day. Can't even seem to get there, Obi.
Yes, sir. So I'm kind of just watching this Apple here as the market pulls back in the 21.3. Yes. So thank you, Ramin. That's the meme there. So they both go to the mattress store, and SpongeBob was like, "Thank you, Patrick, for coming with me." He's just like, "Oh, Patrick's like, yeah, I've never been to a mattress store before. I've always wanted to go. I've never seen so many mattresses. How many do you think there are, Patrick?" Patrick goes, 10. And very coolly, nonchalantly, SpongeBob goes, "Cool," and they move on with their day. So I think it was good. So let's see how cool the market recap is currently.
Yeah, there's probably about the same amount of small cap partners today as there were mattresses in that GIF, if I'm being quite honest. Really quickly, before we get to the small caps though, META, I looked into that. There is no news to explain that drop. It is worth noting though, they actually got their second price target increase in 2 days. Today, Wolf Research raising their price target to 750. Yesterday, they got a price target increase to 730 from JMP Research. Now for the small caps, IWM started this really nice kind of upward trend, beginning with Power Hour yesterday. They got a nice little pop. As of right now, still actually holding those higher lows. So keep an eye here on the Russell 2000, trying to reclaim that $222 level. As for right now, though, NITO, N2 off. We talked about this one. This ticker, not finding any news on it, but it is a small cap here with about a 4 million share float. Then we have ARBE. This company's ARB. They're at day's highs. This one actually announced yesterday they're going to be presenting at this Needham Growth Conference, and they're in the robotics space, so ARBE could be on watch next week with the CES. We know we are expecting some robotics talk here at the Consumer Electronics Show next week. Last but not least, another small cap at day's highs. It's going to be FCUV. This is Focus Universal. They are a penny stock here. Keep an eye here on FCUV. No catalyst, but man, this is breaking out, guys. Back to you.
Like some of these technical,
trend
breaks are beautiful.
This is a perfect timing for Adair to have gone over the small caps because, and I was just saying this to Obi. We always say it's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to stay wrong. Like you can like a long breakout on Rigetti, and I'm just going to quickly show you Rigetti here. You can like the long break because I think if it can hold the top breakout that you can scalp inside the range, you can hold for 21, 22. Like all these things are possible, but when it breaks a support level, you got to get out. And you got to not fight. You can be long in here, you can be long anywhere in here, but I never revert these first time through. And it's frustrating because when you look at that, it's like, well, the second I'm deciding to stop out, that's obviously a fantastic short. But there is this QSI, by the way, which this is now making a bit of a trend break on its own. Steep trend here, but then the whole day, which is just the morning, trend break happened, and VWAP. I'm looking for a VWAP retest. If this retest VWAP, I know it's not technically the same type of quantum name, but a VWAP retest, and I'm shorting it back into this high on QSI. AMD continues to work. just broke 122, so it just got to that 121 in between the half and the evens. So I just simply slapped, it made a bounce here at 75. I slapped the bid there at 78, just got filled out. Now we're looking for the pre-market lows on AMD. So the short's still working on AMD. I know it's up 1%, but that rollover off of yesterday's highs is certainly working out for us. Nvidia it wicked VWAP. I don't like catching that falling knife. I'm not much for just like blindly sitting in there. I like to see it make a rounded bottom here on Nvidia. It's that time of day that I never want to be throwing away the morning profits, so you just want to be a little bit more cautious with the dip buys. So AMD we're going to hold on to. Tesla, we never ended up, it did do that 390. Obviously we're in AMD and got Nvidia, but Tesla was a bit of a miss on that reversion short. As you were just showing the reversion on Apple, Obi, I think you had exactly the same thing here on Tesla.
Yeah.
When it eventually broke these trends. And sometimes you use the wicks if they line up. A lot of times I might use the bodies, but like if these ones line up with the wick bottoms here off of VWAP. At that point, it is the trend. They may be wick lows, but that is the trend line. And here is that last retest on strength. You get a lower high and a head and shoulders. It doesn't really matter what you call it. There is your break of the trend line. You could be in here and giving it to there, but now we got to look for the VWAP retracements. We pop back into VWAP. To me, the trend is broken, and then we look for the 385. That'll be the continuation play. Spiral Namikaze. What about Palantir? Is it at 71 yet? I don't know why I need to be. I stank bid 71 because I'm like, if it gets to 71, I don't want to miss it today. No, Palantir is actually holding out not terribly here. Underneath VWAP, we're not getting anything resembling that 71 level the way this thing is going. So let's do a little bit of work on
Palantir.
It's still so
I definitely missed a trade on that one, man. Like
78 short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the long off of the open was great because look at the multi-day trend. If you draw the trend line off the multi-day, we broke that, and I was actually looking for a continuation short. Look how beautiful that is off the 85 high. It clips 85, consolidates, breaks that uptrend, gives us a little bit of intermediate downtrend, and look right off of the open 75 confluence hold, and then break of trend on a multi-day gives you 78s. Oh boy.
That FOMO.
Oh boy.
It should give you FOMO when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it on this chart. My chart is hella messy here on Palantir. But again, this trend line I think in my opinion, I would give it a little bit more weight than the rest of them there. So yeah, a lot of chip chop there on that. But let's draw in a little bit of an indicator here of this trend to the downside. So this is what I was looking at, pretty clean to the downside here. I'll change it up so you guys can see it better. We'll make it a little bit thicker there. So that trend line, and look at that, comes in right off of the open, breaks. So it's like, all right, you observe that happen, and then the execution. We were talking about great ideas and having execution structures around them. So an example of using good execution structure around a trade idea. So okay, looking for that continuation long, and knowing that if this trend breaks, the probability of a reversion definitely goes up a little bit higher than the continuation. So looking for a pre-market high break to get involved for that trend break on a multi-day, I think is a good execution structure to get long on this ticker. And sure, you're getting in 75.80s, risking down to the low at 75.18's opening range low. But guess what? You get that push up into 78. And sure, some people might say, oh, the RR might not be to their taste. But something I'm realizing more and more as I get further along in my trading journey is that sometimes even the negative RR trades make a lot of sense if you think the probability of them happening are extremely high, especially if you like scalping. So even if if your risk is 10 times that of your reward, but your probability that you think that this is going to work out is like 95%, then I think that's still well worth taking. And you see that often. You observe the market, you see those opportunities show up 100%. Often.
And sometimes you'll see that, and it doesn't set up as a better than 50-50.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're on your journey as a trader, you get just more than a feeling at a certain trade that it's going to be really good. And when you get that, sometimes you got to be able to take it. And I can see that just flew right over your head, so I'm going to pretend that I didn't Dropped that pun just now. I don't know why I made a Journey reference that I thought Obi was going to get, because clearly it is what it is. I know some of you guys know Journey. QSI. Sharif, do you know Journey? Yeah, I mean, they got other songs too. See, yeah, Adara and Sharif.
I know that
what's
song,
up.
Don't Stop Believing.
It's not the only one they have. But shout out to Pug Life and Life 77 knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
QSI is trying to reclaim VWAP. I did get that short that we were mentioning. Is a retested VWAP. I got 18s in here, and it tried to push back underneath 5. So I was able to get some on the consolidation down here out, but that was north of 5. So about 15 pennies on that. But that's about 1-to-1 because we're stopping out above 30 here. It's actually exactly 1-to-1 from where my stop is. And then we're trying to get more shares out in front of the 480 level. So it is heading to the downside. Demonica knows what I'm talking about as well. Aldrin Giller in the chat, or is that Aldrin Geiler? GME halted with a question mark. Okay, so my halt scanner does not have GME as halted, so I'm going to say no. Wait a minute. Never mind. What are the odds? I just heard in my ear shares of GameStop breaking highs. It's not halted, but GameStop is actually breaking out. What are the odds that I would read that message in the chat and then 2 seconds later I hear it in the news that it is breaking out the highs? But still, like 31.5 looks like a really good level for GameStop if it can hold above that. 33 still needs to go. It really needs to break this 33. I feel this way. Felt that way about 32, and 32 broke and only went $1, which for a day trade is good. But for all the apes out there, I guess, GameStop, you don't call yourselves apes. Whatever you want to say. It just was not a big move on that 32 breakout. You want more than that sustainment. So it needs to get back above that 33 on GameStop. AMD still looking okay. We're holding on to this short now. We're in that phase where if it retests, then I got to wait for 123. Like, we got our target so far to the downside. Hold on to that last 20%. If we fail at VWAP, look for the VWAP short. Otherwise, wait for that lower high at 123. Obi, I don't know if you've traded Carvana today, or at least looked at Carvana.
I was looking at it, man.
It was
this
look at that wick bottom on Carvana. It breaks the low, and then instantly, this is yesterday's low of the day. You draw the line in here, somewhere off that bottom, or hey, that's actually exactly on. You get that false bottom. It's this candle that provides you with the entry if you're looking at Carvana. Like, this is the wick bottom. This candle, it opens up underneath and then instantly breaks out the prior at 187. So it's like 187 long. This prior low in here is like 186 change. So it's $1 worth of risk on Carvana. Yeah, you show me $1 worth of risk on Carvana, and you probably got a good opportunity. And it doesn't even have to work more than 50% of the time with that risk to reward. But Vana's on a bit of a squeeze here. This happens. Short seller report comes in. Remember, the report is their exit liquidity. Yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah, this is what I was talking to Sharif about this morning. I'm like, all right, well, Carvana already been selling off for multiple weeks on the break of trend, so it's already technical, right? And you have strong red candles on the weekly for about 4 weeks, and then you get a short report, and you saw the action on the short report, a little bit of a shake and bake with an aggressive bid. So it's like, who's buying that short report? Sure, maybe it's somebody else, but I have no idea. But the thing is, the bid comes in, and I say this all the time. In order to push volume, you need liquidity, and in order to bring in liquidity into the market, you have to do some marketing.
Manipulation.
Let's see what Adara has to say.
Well, you can finish that. You meant market manipulation.
Yeah. Well.
Be looking at crypto, but also I really wanted to trust this GME. It is not halted, but it is worth noting here, push to the upside. However, caveat, we are coming into a pretty key area of resistance from yesterday around 12 o'clock, that 3150 area. So this could be a make it or break it level for GME. Be aware here, 3150 on GameStop. No news pushing this one that I can see. As we know, we had Roaring Kitty tweeting late on Wednesday night, basically that Rick James gif, or Dave Chappelle is Rick James, which had people buying Unity. But anyways, GME, not sure what the catalyst is for today, but pushing higher. Bitcoin, however, actually finding some nice support around that 92,000 level, looking like it's poised for its 4th straight day to the upside. But again, we still have lower highs and lower lows until we are able to reclaim that area just shy of $100,000, that top we made on Boxing Day, December 26th. We're going to have to wait and see what happens here for BTC. But how's the rest of the crypto space looking? We do BTC up about 1%. Ethereum, though, really strong, actually gunning for 3,600, up about 2% and change. XRP up 1%. Solana up 5%. Dogecoin up 8.5%. Cardano up 14%. So a lot of these crypto names pushing upside with varying degrees of success. That move, though, in Cardano, 14%. Really great look here, guys. Back to you.
Thank you, Adara. We're just talking about the weekly trend on IONQ.
Well, this is the daily chart, but I think if you look at the weekly, and all these quantum names are a little bit different, like Rigetti's weekly charts, it's going to be a little bit different from IONQ's. But if you look at this, it's very, very clear higher highs, and it's not as clear these lower highs because it already had this trend break. But I think if you put it on from November, these bottoms on IONQ, then line this one up, because once you got this hold here, I think it gave you the trend line bottom. As Obi was saying, and it's rightfully so, you set an alert for something like 39 in here, or when it breaks 41, just be ready for that low. I was looking at this and this fail up at the top here, and it kind of looks like there's a top, there's a top, there's a top 47.5, and this lower high kind of works with VWAP at 45.5. So my eyeballs immediately are like 45.5 on the daily, and then here comes VWAP as well. So if this pushes into VWAP, I like a VWAP or trace. But I'm already in one of those on QSI, which is retesting. QSI is not the same, first of all, as these other quantum names. But it also happened to do a reversion, and VWAP, able to get some out. Now it seems like it wants to run that top. So this same look where I'm shorting back into VWAP and QSI, I actually like it on IONQ today, and that's provided we get a shot at it. I'm actually going to get on the bid in front of 5 again here on QSI, just get a little bit more out.
Yeah, so I'm watching. So I finally pulled up Rivian on my chart here. Rivian, I got to pull it up on a couple other multi-frame charts as well. Again, I want to ask you guys: do you guys look at multiple frames while you're trading, or do you like to stick with one, like a 5-minute, 15-minute, 2, 3-minute, 30-minute hourly maybe? But as you guys know, if you guys watch the show often, I like a few different time frames, especially for intraday. Intraday, I like to look at the weekly, sometimes even the monthly when I'm planning, but intraday, maybe the weekly and the daily for sure. A 30-minute or an hourly.
Winning by a long shot here.
15, sorry?
Multiple is winning by a long shot in the chat.
Multiple? Okay.
Multiple.
Yes, multiple frames. Yeah, I like that. Perfect. Yeah. So, multiple time frames. I like that as well. I like using 15, 3-minute as a main. I know people like using the 2, 3. 1 is a little bit choppy for me, but 3 is what I really like there. And as of recently this year, started using more 15-second and 30-second charts, especially on aggressive and volatile movers like Tesla. ARM was great for on the seconds chart, just to give you that little bit of confluence. Again, some of these algos, they work so fast, and I think that you can see some of them, some of the action kind of showing up, and sometimes you can even see reserves when you look back on the chart at the second chart there. So you can see reserves very cleanly sometimes. But before I continue that thought, we're going to go over to Dara real quick.
This part of the show is brought to you by eSignal. Trade smarter, not harder. Upgrade to an elite trading experience that can help you analyze, strategize, and capitalize. Foresee profitable opportunities with a platform that meets your needs. There's infinite data, which can help lead to instant trading, so you can know where the market's moving before others with lightning fast data, as well as charts that change the game. Customize and analyze markets faster your way. There's also better backtesting and scanning, which can help you predict the future by understanding the past, and you'll have access to reliable real-time data. Yes, that's up to the second market info from hundreds of global markets. Everything you need, all in one place. Don't miss a beat. Execute your best trades now with eSignal. Are you ready to elevate your trading? Just scan that QR code or click the link in the description. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Adara. And you'll see here on AMD, we did get the move. It broke 122, but look at it, respect pre-market high, respect that support. So we held on to some, had a tight stop entry in here just to make sure we stay up on the stock. And obviously it's still going. I just said in the chat, the top break was 60. If you pull back the chart, it's actually at 70s here. So 123.70. And I think AMD's on the breakout trail. That said, I think it's in a clear mean reversion at this point. When I see that this is not my term, but some people call it like a reverse Christmas tree, whatever, because you have green and red, and it's kind of like shaped like a tree. When you do that kind of a move, it's going to turn me bullish on it. So I think 123.70, that's where it lines up for a breakout. I think VWAP can be respected, but it's still putting in these highs up here. I'm not buying it up here. It has to break out 123.70. There's nothing wrong with higher buy high, sell higher. And if it tries to mean revert, there can still be another short off of that high. Nvidia.
I mean, that was a big theme of this
one.
year. Just that concept of buy high, sell higher.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
Or like buy
100%.
and hold until the break of trend.
You got to be able to. You have to be able to. But there was a super chat I wanted to get to before I go to Nvidia. Thank you, Nimrod, for the super chat. Hey, guys, does it look like Uber might be on its way back after 20% down? I would venture to say yes. I know Sean already bought. I was waiting for it to hold on the weekly. So I'm not buying it in my long term until, I mean, I'll probably buy it on Monday at this point. I think there's almost no chance that it's going to close underneath 60 on a weekly chart at this point. But there's that bottom. Triple bottom of sorts, although I thought it was breaking 60 and you'd get wicks down into the 55 because that's what happened the last few times it was down here. It wasn't holding 60 exactly, it was trading into the 50. So I was actually looking to buy down there. But now it's breaking back out this level. As long as you close above 60 on the weekly, then I'm adding to it on a personal account. It wouldn't be like a buy as a trade or anything, but I think a good spot. And I also love when a stock does a death cross down and then immediately starts breaking a trend to the upside. That's never a bad sign. It hasn't broken it completely, like if you connect this here, but it's very, very close to also breaking this trend line after potentially trapping some shorts with that death cross. I like that setup.
What's the death, the 50 over the?
It's a 50 over the 200.
Okay, true.
On the 50, so the death cross is when the 50 simple moving average on higher time frame, usually a daily chart, when it crosses a 200 period moving average to the downside, that's a death cross, and then the golden cross the other way. I don't use it for trades, but I kind of use it in the other direction. Like if I already like a long and it just did a death cross to the downside, like I feel like that long has trapped people short, and I like the long better.
True.
That's just one of those. I use it for like other reasons, not because I think it's a short at that point. I use it for confluence that you've trapped some people the other way, so your counterparty,
I like that.
Your counterparty's in there.
So would you say the more important question is, you want to know if other people use it?
Yes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes.
That's how I like to use my indicators. Anyways, Rivian, very, very strong to the upside. This is a 15-minute chart here, so let's go down to like a 5-minute. You can see got that anchored in there as well off of the catalyst there. We have been getting a little bit of a range on the pullbacks there. Initial pullback here. Yeah, we pulled back right there down into, what is that? 1531s, but a little bit of a double bottom there, 1528 and 1528 on a 5-minute, double tap that level, and then continuation breaking out of that high there. So let's wait and see when and if this trend will break. This is extended to the upside currently, about 17% up, 2.3 points. And if you look at Rivian's ATR, it is about 1.07. So this is, again, we talk about doing multiple ATRs on multiples of relative volume. We're doing over 6 times RVol, and we've done well over 2 times ATR on the name on Rivian today. So going to be patient, looking for that reversion. If that doesn't come in, then so be it. But again, market's pretty strong here. So let's see what Adara has for us.
So be it, Jedi.
As you might expect, given the strength in the market, it is a really great look here for all these sectors. Producer manufacturing, very green. Health technology, green. Utilities, consumer durables, energy minerals, health services even having a comeback despite their weakness in December after the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. So this sector even getting a push to the upside, as is transportation, as is retail trade, and these technology sectors for the most part. Let's talk about electronic technology. Apple still pushing to the downside. We know they have that $95 million fine reportedly that they're going to have to face with regards to the Siri allegations here, that they use Siri to basically collect information. Nvidia, though, to the upside, as is AMD. Qualcomm also pretty strong. Now for technology services, we have a lot of strength here. Microsoft, Google, very strong here. Meta started strong, but right now waffling with that $600 level. But we have to talk about Adobe, actually one of the rare weak names in the sector. They got a little bit of a price target decrease here from UBS, guys.
Adobe. Wherefore art thou, Adobe? I don't like what's going on with Adobe. We talked about this on Adobe. By the way, INQ's at VWAP, so that reversion can be oncoming in a quick second here. But Adobe on a weekly, it's losing that support. Now, when I talked about this last, I was like, hey, it has a chance to close the week holding this level. But if it goes the other way, I think Adobe, 19 times forward PE on Adobe. Like if this gets down into the mid 300s, it just only gets more appealing. So obviously with forward PE, that means they have to hit their targets, next earnings. But if they do that, I don't see how you're not buying this down in the mid 300s. So it's on my radar. I was kind of hoping that Adobe would close this week holding the support. Unfortunately, it's underneath, so I don't think I won't be buying it next week unless something changes very, very quickly on Adobe. Yeah, it's a good company, but price doesn't lie. That's the one thing you learn very easily. So here comes IonQ. We're still testing underneath VWAP. I suppose I can nibble here and give it to like 45.8. But the other thing is I want this bar to close. This 3-minute bar, I want it to close underneath VWAP and underneath that recent trend line. And the other way to look at it here is, if I connect these wicks, this can be an ad underneath 45. I just heard we got to go over to Adair. We got some news.
We do have some news, and it has to do with U.S. steel. Not super surprising here, I guess, that this is on watch. Still down about 5%, but nice recovery for this. We had a couple of minutes ago, I was seeing on Benzinga that Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel basically jointly released a statement saying that they condemn the U.S. government's unlawful decision, I guess, to try to block the sale. Now, Nikkei reporting that Nippon Steel is actually going to be suing the U.S. government over the blocked sale. So keep an eye out for a potential suit here from Nippon towards the U.S. government, as reported by Nikkei. Back to you.
Suing the U.S. government?
Yeah, sure.
Good luck with that. But that said, remember...
How are you going to sue the biggest business on earth?
Well, you can try. Many have tried. The other thing to keep in mind here is they did have a bid from Cliff. So I think that's one of the... and the prior bid from Cliff, like the first bid was like it was cash in stock that worked out to like 35 at the time. I get it. Obviously, the market has been... the market hasn't been all that kind to steel companies. You look at Nucor. But I think the secondary bid was still much, much higher than this. So it does have some support on the stock. Like the idea that it was going to break down underneath 29, maybe a little bit far-fetched. But I think this, like I was saying, like the steel market in general, like if you look at what's going on to Nucor, like this is considered to be the best of breed.
Really?
Right? So Nucor is considered to be the best of breed. Okay. And they've been absolutely bleeding. So you've got this weird dichotomy where like the market should be dictating with this deal dead that it should be flushing, but it's got that cliff. Maybe Cleveland Cliff comes back in. And I think that's why you're seeing a bit of a bid in addition to that lawsuit. But I'd watch it. Actually, Nucor at some point is going to turn into a buy. Like, come on, give me a break. Like you're talking, zoom out, let's go. There we go. You're talking about some pretty significant levels for a very, very well-run business. Like anything underneath $100 on Nucor, you got to like it. They got a good dividend. I can't hate on this. It's just, man, these steel stocks are bad. Bad.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat, I forget who it was. Pankaj in the chat pointing out Riot. So I just pulled up some of these crypto names here. So these miners are running pretty strong, a little bit stronger than I pulled up IBIT as well. So IBIT, a bit of a chop to the upside, but holding higher highs, higher lows as well. But taking a look at both Mara and Riot, you can see how aggressively the bid has come in today. 17.19's day lows, a bit of a grab of that pre-market low. Continuation holding VWAP. Clearly, buyers are in charge on on this ticker here, showing up at VWAP multiple times before we get that extension all the way up from 18 VWAP hold to 19s on a ticker like Mara. Absolutely wild, and obviously Riot there as well. Very, very similar action. So let's take a quick look at Bitcoin to see what our friend is up to. 97.6s was the test just now. A bit of a pullback here. Again, this is a 3-minute chart. So we've been holding that VWAP as well. You can see the opening session starting here at 9:30, holding that VWAP multiple times. Again, looking very similar to that IBIT, but distinctly different are the miners like Mara and Riot. But let's take a look at our friend MSTR. Mr., what are you up to? And Mr. is a little bit of a runner as well. Wow, look at that. 304 hold, double bottom, reclaim a VWAP, break of this trend, break of high opening, I guess not really opening range high. When was that made? Actually 15-minute opening range high there as well at 310s, trading 316s now on MSTR, so breaking prior day's high there as well. Okay, that's even more confluence, Neil. You can see that today's opening range high on the 15 was the same point at which we had the prior day's high as well. So a little bit of a double top breakout, but take a look at this. Some action here off of the 318s. You can see the aggressive selling that came in on Monday going into the close as well. We had that MSTR sell imbalance that brought us all the way from 318s down to 293. So we cracked 300 in the after hour, so some strong selling off of those levels. Let's see if we get a bit of reversion here off of this 317, 318 level. It's trading currently with a day high of 317.10s, but yes, some of these crypto names are very, very strong with Bitcoin catching a little bit of a bid on the day today. So I'm not really seeing too much else. I'm being patient for Rivian. I guess now I'm also looking at Riot and Mara as well, but gotta keep an eye on Bitcoin at the same time if I want to be trading those. Apple, no real follow through to the downside. Yeah, sure, I could have definitely re-engaged at that 244s, showing Neil as well how beautiful anchored VWAP is. What's that?
Engage,
yeah.
Like Captain Picard.
Sorry, Captain Kirk?
Captain Picard.
Captain Picard. Oh,
no, Captain Kirk absolutely does not say engage.
Oh, like boosters engage or warp speed engage.
Boosters, huh?
Light speed.
No, it's not. So yeah, warp speed.
Warp speed. Sorry. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, you know what? There's. So, speaking of warp speed, I love the progress that we're making in terms of space travel. They're saying that to Mars by 2026, and then boots on Mars in the next 20 years. Oh,
would you go?
Of course.
See, I like that answer.
We're sure we're going to be sending some Optimists up there first. Right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to be sending some Optimists up there to do some building. You know what? Elon is a very smart. He's thinking multiple levels ahead.
Exactly.
Like K level 20 thinking over here.
My biggest beef with and first of all, I love the movie The Martian.
Yes.
And
beautiful movie.
It's not even necessarily. It's a good
Matt
book.
Damon, right?
Oh, I was going to say this. It was written by Mike. Was it Mike? Something Weir.
Mike Wazowski.
Andy Weir.
Oh.
Andy Weir. Andy Weir is the author. He's got several good books. Artemis is a good book, and there's Project something, which is another one coming out with Ryan Gosling, gonna be really good. But my beef with The Martian.
Adam?
I'll have to look it up. It's Project something.
Okay.
But my beef with The Martian was that it's not that realistic that they wouldn't have had. Why was there no robot? It made no sense that they didn't have any seriously, it doesn't have to be an android, but you're gonna tell me on that crew we're going to Mars, they have this technology and there wasn't a robot with them?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. I'm not talking about Commander Data or anything.
Unrealistic.
Not an android, but there should have been something up there that could have helped him a little bit more. A couple of notes. I know we only have 10 minutes to go here. Do we throw it over to the Bash Brothers? One, I'll get to IonQ in a second because that's the second one. One working, one not. So this is QSI holding this VWAP. We got it above 5 because we liked it back into 530, and it's now testing that 480. I have another bid in front of this pre-market consolidation level, but IonQ is a little bit different. So took the first pot shot at it, tight stop, and now it's going to run the 46 level. So IonQ distinctly different and stronger. I want to give it multiple tries at this VWAP because I think this is If it holds down here, I think you've got to move into 44 minimum and maybe even 43. I'm going to stop it out here. I know I'm risking only 50 pennies on a $40 stock that's already moved $4.50, but I want to keep the losses small so that if I can get a curl off VWAP, I can capture it. I don't want to fight this. It did the mean revert, but it's now broken out the top. So I don't mind walking away from that trade and then waiting for the next available setup. Obviously, QSI is a similar one that's going to end up working, but 30, 40 cents on QSI, it's a $5 stock. On IonQ, very different story. Like, I'm not holding that one multiple dollars against me. Zach is going to ask in the chat, loading up another AMD short. I'm not rushing into AMD at this point. I think I got what I wanted out of it, and it just wicked the top. So when I say it's wicked the top, that's this. So it's wicked that high. Yeah, it could be another mean reversion short. I don't know that I want to put it on just yet. I think it just made that curl now, and it was a very, very steep move. Like, if you draw the trend line from here, like, this is only now breaking. Like, that little dip, you're only now breaking, so it needs to close this bar underneath, and then I'd short it somewhere in here into this high, which it looks like it's going to do. It's funny how I said I'm not rushing into it, and then the second I start explaining the setup,
it happens.
It starts happening.
Yeah. Classic.
Okay, well, it wasn't there yet, but like now, okay, so now the answer turns into yes. Now the answer is yes, I am shorting AMD, but it wasn't doing it when I started answering the question.
It's funny. This happens to me. This happens to me all the time, and I'm just like, yo, this this setup is so amazing. Like, this will happen. And I'm talking to to Wayne and other members of the trading pod, and I'm just like, this is very likely to happen. And I'm kind of explaining it, pulling up other frame charts and maybe other sympathies, and then it happens, and I'm like, oh well, missed the ideal entry there on that one there. Kind of similar action there happening on Apple. Missed the reload at that 244s off of again anchored. Shout out to Brian Shannon there, kind of bringing anchored VWAP into our lives there, and I've been using it so much more this year, Neil, and oh boy, really learning to effectively use that indicator has been a serious game changer for me. Just look again, not really making decisions based off of it, but using it as perspective to look for trades and look for again
big levels.
Big levels, yeah. Players in charge, maybe players offside as well. Holds, reclaims, again, just similar to how you might be interpreting your regular VWAP there, but anchored to an event is definitely a little bit of it gives you a little bit of a perspective there, and it works across markets. Again, I used it on the ES yesterday, and it came in beautifully with a little bit of confluence, and a held offer on the SPY yesterday as well. That was beautiful. But yeah, no, shout out to Anchored VWAPs and Brian Shannon for bringing that to the trading community.
That's what it's all about. Like, it's just finding. It's not like any indicator can work. It's just finding something that works for you.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't use Fibonacci's, but when someone tells me, well, I got this fib level and blah, 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 I'm like, does it work for you? Answer yes. Fantastic, man. There's not just one way to trade. There's no right or wrong way. I like trend lines. They work for me. Support and resistance, they work for me.
I love those.
Anchored VWAP works for a lot of traders on this floor, I can tell you right now, and a lot of the traders in this community. Just a couple of things here. Tesla, I know I haven't traded Tesla in here today, but it did just make so it's literally just happened to us on AMD. So Tesla just did this, which you can see that trend up. It's kind of funny. I have it up on another chart. It just made this trend back up to retest a lower high. I'm trying to get it. I don't know why it was above 87. I could have put 387 even in there, but this is a bit of a trend break. It's definitely breaking this bottom. It hasn't closed the bar underneath yet, so I'm only in half. And if it closes underneath, I think I'll look for an opportunity to add on Tesla. So remember, deliveries bad in the sense that they were a year-over-year decline on Tesla. If it makes a fresh high, easy out. But we were waiting for it to retest the 390. It did. Now this is the lower high in Tesla. I know it's up 2%, but this is underneath the area that we wanted, and it's just a mean reversion trade. This is a time of day where I generally will prefer mean reversion setups. Like it goes into a big trend, and then it reverts that trend, and I look to play it first into VWAP and then back into those lows. So that's Tesla. We've already got one in QSI. You guys let us know if we're missing anything that's going. I know Bitcoin's trying to break away from that 97,000 that we can't do. So some of those names are going to be on watch, like Amara. Although I saw in the chat there, Wilson saying Mara will squeeze. I'm all for it. Like Mara, I think Mara just came out with they came out with some updated numbers this morning, and it's been in the absolute doghouse relative to Bitcoin. I think you always want to play this thing after it's bounced off the teams. Like never, I don't want to say never, but it's just my opinion. Like
never
buying
say
this,
never.
Never say never, first of all. But trying to catch this when it's breaking out above 20 has been like a sucker's game. Because every time it just seems to always want to pull back. When it bounces off this 14, 15 area, that's the time generally to get the Mara long. And then if 100,000 breaks and then you're long it in the teens, well, your risk is like less than 30% to the bottom. And then you can ride it to the top. That way, if it fails up here, you're in the money as opposed to buying those highs. The miners are just relatively weak. So you got to be looking for bottoms, not trying to jump on the top on something like Amara. Up 13%, looking fantastic. But the new trade for me is our first in Tesla on this mean reversion. It just...
Mean reversion?
What? I was literally just talking about this one. See, there's your trend.
Oh, nice.
There's the close underneath. So I said I would get more at 87 if it did. So there's our ad. We're going to give it to the prior high. Although if it gets down to VWAP, I tighten the stop up to about 377.75. But I'm giving it a little bit more room, at least for now, on Tesla. 1 minute to go till we get to the Bash Brothers. And it's been a fun one this morning. Nvidia has been a rocket ship. AMD hasn't been as much. And now that I've just noticed it, Mara's going for a ride.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm probably going to look for a reversion on Mara at some point. This is way too steep.
That is definitely on reversion watch there. Both Mara and Riot and Rivian as well. So I'm going to continue watching that one. The long off the open, absolutely beautiful, giving you that push with the market tailwind as well. So a nice long continuation on Rivian working out as of right now. We got a super chat from Marty here. Went long RGTI at 18, looking for 1912s. Your thoughts? Okay, we can take a look at Rigetti because Rigetti, we should not forget it. So RGTI.
I like it.
So let's see, 18s. Yeah, all right. So yeah, you're looking for a retest of VWAP, man. VWAP is sitting at 1924s. We're trading 1906s. So is it well within range? Yeah, I guess it's coming into this prior low as well. So nice long at the 18. I like that. Bit of a trend break reversion. So solid trade on that one there, Marty. As the trend breaks and the bid catches back on, you get that push for a reversion back into VWAP. Not only that, a reclaim of that opening range low. Look at that sell-off that wicks back up with some buying there as well. So nice little, I guess, pressure showing itself on a strong pullback on top of 18 there. So nice trade. You can see that you had some buyers there prior day as well, aggressively buying in from 2 p.m. all the way into the close, all the way from 17s to what is that? Wow, 20s. So they had a 3-point run into the close. Oh boy, this thing is doing some a little bit of a squeezing action. It would seem on a multi time frame. And again, we looked at it on the daily, we looked at it on the weekly, looking perfectly fine, well within trend. Sure, it's volatile and rangy, but maybe that's the arena you like to play in. I definitely do. And that reversion back to VWAP coming in nice and strong. So can you get 1912s? I don't know, but it's looking like if this trend continues to the upside and it comes into VWAP, then yeah, of course it's gonna have to get through 12s to get to 24s there on RGTI. Rigetti Computing and Rivian still going. So I'm going to be patient with that one there.
It is 11 o'clock as usual. We'll be back at 2 o'clock and of course take you into the afternoon and the aftermarket show with myself, Adara, and I believe Raider Trader as well. But for now, it is time for Learn to Trade. We've got the professor. We've got Joey options. Go get them, boys.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to the How to Trade